is Rogers TV Ottawa.
It's 9 a.m.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, March 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, minus 17 degrees, minus 16 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The latest from Ukraine as the Russians' attack today included the bombing of a nuclear plant. Here's City News reporter Jamie Pulfer now with the latest.
The world could be dealing with a nuclear disaster right now after a shelling attack by Russian forces on Europe's largest nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine that started a fire.
We, of course, are fortunate that there was no release of radiation and that the integrity of the reactors in themselves was not compromised.
The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency says radiation levels appear to be normal and the fire at the Zaporizhzhia facility is out, but now under Russian control. The plant operator says staff there are working at gunpoint. Russian President Vladimir Putin is accused of crossing the red line. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby says this just raises the level of potential catastrophe.
What we don't want to see is an escalation of this conflict, certainly not in the nuclear realm, whether it's nuclear power plants being attacked or nuclear weapons being used. There's no reason for that.
There's worldwide condemnation. Ukrainian President Zelensky says that the recklessness of the attack raises questions about whether Russia is willing to do here. Jamie Pulfer, City News.
Now, the Winter Paralympics have opened in Beijing. Russian athletes sent home the Ukrainian team escaping a war zone just to get to China. Now, the head of the Ukrainian delegation says it's a miracle they made it. Russia's invasion of Ukraine started shortly after the Winter Olympics wrapped up in Beijing. Now, Paralympic organizers initially announced Russia and Belarus would be allowed to compete, their athletes, in the Para Games. They have reversed course, though, just one day before the opening and expelled the athletes from both of those countries. City News Time 9:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Just a lot of cloud for most areas today with a chance of some flurries. We are under a special weather statement, though. Now, not for today. This is for late Saturday night into Sunday. There could be several hours of freezing rain. Again, late Saturday night, early Sunday. For today, the high -4.
And right now, minus 17 in Ottawa, minus 16 in Smiths Falls. A controversial politician will not reoffer for election in the June vote. Lanark Kingston Frontenac's Randy Hillier posted a 20-minute video to social media yesterday talking about his decision to leave provincial politics. He says that will be met by sadness or with sadness by some, but glee by others. He has been opposed to lockdown measures during the COVID pandemic and was removed from the PC caucus actually before the pandemic hit. He has represented the riding since 2007. Now, Hillier says the province has been under mob rule for the last couple of years, and he doesn't see that changing. Hillier is facing a number of charges, though, related to anti-COVID measure rallies, as well as over the downtown Ottawa protests. City News Time 9:03. Nurses taking their fight with the province to the steps of an MPP's office at noon today. The Ontario Nurses Association wants the province to repeal Bill 124, which caps their increases every year. The nurses will rally at Jeremy Roberts' office at 1580 Merivale Road from noon until just after 1. And councillors in Ottawa will have the option to go to City Hall for the council meeting Wednesday, or they can log in virtually. It's expected if councillors choose, they can go to the chambers in person. The city clerk apparently giving them more information on that option later on today. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Friday. We made it. What a week. It flew by. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. Not done yet. We're always happy when you choose to spend some of your day with us. I don't think you'll be disappointed today. Coming up, he's been minding Ottawa's business all week. Tom Korski, managing editor, Blacklock's reporter. His team had a lot of great stories this week. For example, the real estate numbers came out yesterday from the Ottawa Real Estate Board. Sales numbers, prices for the month of February. Hey, guess what? Red hot again. Average sale price for condos up 15% compared to last year. 466.6. And for what the real estate board calls a residential class property, which is basically everything else, average selling price $837,500. $837,500, up 17%. Now, loyal listeners will know David and I have this running thing about mobile homes. Okay? What does it cost to get into the trailer park? What does it take to get yourself into a mobile home these days? Well, nothing against mobile homes. Some of them are very nice, right? So far this year in Ottawa, 11 mobile homes have been sold, and the average selling price has been $200,364.
Oh, gosh.
Ouch. $200,000 for a mobile home in Ottawa.
Guess I'll
$200,000 for a mobile home.
Start looking at camper vans. Jeez.
You're going to be like Frances McDormand in Nomad. You're like that. That's the way your life is headed. Now, 10 years ago, I looked this up. February of 2012. You can look this up on the Ottawa Real Estate Board website yourself. Okay. Also, 11 mobile homes were sold by this time of the year, in 2012. The average selling price 10 years ago was $66,955 10 years ago. So mobile homes in Ottawa have appreciated by 200% in 10 years. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. Like 10 years ago, you would have been better off as an investor buying a mobile home in Ottawa than buying shares in the Royal Bank of Canada. Seriously. Mobile home prices are up 200%. Shares in the Royal Bank are up 160% in 10 years. Right? Anyway, I'm getting off track. Tom Korski and his team at Blacklock's Reporter. Let's reel this thing in here, Rob. They had a report about the shortage of housing. Right? Supply, demand. There's a lot of demand. Obviously, not a lot of supply. That's one of the big problems. And according to a top banking regulator, not a banker, a banking regulator, the country needs to start building 40,000 homes a year. We're going to get into that. And Blacklock's was also covering the House of Commons Public Safety Committee yesterday, where committee members, MPs, heard from executives of crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe and GiveSendGo about the millions and millions of dollars raised for the trucker protests. And there was some interesting information to come out of that testimony. So that's coming up in a few minutes from now. Then Derek Fage is going to join us, the host of Daytime Ottawa, Rogers Television. He's had a busy week. Always has a hot take on the big news stories of the day. We may talk about the price of gas. David drives a little Mazda 3. And you were on empty yesterday.
And I do that because it's good on gas. I would like to add.
Sure, yeah.
That's
it's
why I bought
fuel-efficient vehicle. Right?
That was the main reason I bought it.
So what did it cost to fill that?
For the first time ever, over $70.
Over $70. Wow. Holy smokes.
With the light on.
With the fuel light on?
The fuel light was on.
Wow.
So pretty much on empty, $70.
Holy smokes.
Couldn't believe it.
And what was the price? Do you remember the price at the time?
166.
166.
So quite a bit less than it is now.
And then went up a nickel a liter.
That's why I filled it up yesterday.
Yeah, it's $1.73 this morning. like think about this. Like, it's $1.73 for gas, and it's $200,000 for a mobile home. Who can afford to live like this? I was scared to go to the grocery store last time around. I hate to think what it's going to look like the next time I go grocery shopping. So we'll get into all of that. The cost of living. I'm sure Derek has a few things to say about that. We have a special guest on our program this morning. Retired Lieutenant General Andrew Leslie will join us, former MP for Orleans. We're going to talk about the situation in Ukraine, of course. I mean, gosh almighty. What kind of person are you dealing with? If that person is launching a military assault on a nuclear power plant, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, an attack that sets the place on fire, and if it blows, well, I mean, you don't even want to think about it. Right. A Ukrainian official said yesterday it would be a tragedy many magnitudes worse than Chernobyl. I mean, we are barely more than a week into this, and this is what it has become. Is this a madman with his finger on the button? And what about our capabilities here in Canada from a military hardware point of view? I'm sure Andrew Leslie will have some comments on this. Murray Brewster had a story this week for the public broadcaster. Murray is their national defense correspondent. I used to interview him from time to time when he had the same role with the Canadian press. I mean, listen to this. Quote, "The Canadian Army has no air defenses to keep soldiers safe from aerial attack. Its aging jets would be vulnerable to Russia's air defense system. And the Navy has no supply ships that can operate in a war zone. Budget documents suggest only 65% of Army equipment and vehicles are serviceable, and just 60% of the air fleet is operational." A woeful state of affairs. And we are the lowest spending NATO country. We'll get into all of this with Andrew Leslie. Last time I interviewed him was 2019, when the Army was called in to help with the flooding of the Ottawa River. That was the last time I had a chance to speak with Andrew Leslie, and I always enjoy it. We're going to talk sports with Steve Warren and do the Queen's Park Weekend Review with our MPPs. Gas prices, they were a big issue for MPPs at the Ontario Legislature this week. You know, Doug Ford is going to have some explaining to do during the election campaign when it comes to pocketbook issues. You know, he said, "I'll lower hydro bills." Well, he hasn't. And he said, "I'll cut your gas prices." And he hasn't done that. Gas prices are at a record high. And you know the opposition is going to jump all over him during the election campaign on that. And we'll do the talkback hour between 10 and 11 o'clock. We do it every morning. An hour of phone calls, an hour of opinions, and it's the Friday free-for-all today, so we don't come up with the topics. You come up with the topics. We just do our best to roll with it. We usually talk about things that have been in the news. There's been no shortage of news this week, but it doesn't have to be about anything that's been in the news. Maybe you think it's something that should be in the news. Rob, why aren't you talking about this? Let's talk about it. Whatever it happens to be. We'll see where the conversation takes us. It's always an adventure. On the Rob Snow Show on City News.
So the birth of Absinthe was 2002, I think, 2003, and I was working at Urban Bistro, happily, where Allium is now. And then this space where Holland Cafe was came up. It's on the corner of Spencer and Holland. And I spoke to the landlord, and there's a lot of interest from a lot of other people, but he and I just, got along super well, and he put a lot of faith in me. So Carmen Turner is his name. He gave me the lease to the place and really pretty much gave me all the equipment in the place. So I was really lucky I've been really lucky with landlords that way, actually, both my current landlord and Carmen Turner, because if there hadn't been Carmen Turner, there wouldn't have been Absinthe. So we were there for a few years and just sort of outgrew the place, and then now we're here. It's obviously been tough, and it's been tough for everyone. I mean, that's the, been the big democratic sweep of, like, in restaurants and the hospitality and the arts that we were talking about earlier. It's like everybody's been impacted pretty much the same. From everybody that I talked to, we're down 80%. We're climbing out now. I think one of the saddest things is like we went down to 2 employees from 25, and we're now at 4, and we're bringing 2 new people on this week, so we'll be at 6. So it's little steps. So it's been tough. It's I've got the most expensive clubhouse ever here, because some days you come and you don't do any business, but you're here. But I'm grateful for what I do have. I think everybody's optimistic now, not necessarily just about the vaccine, but about like the vaccine, spring, being able to be outside. I think you're going to see a lot of like pop-up things happen in parking lots and on sidewalks and like that, rather than being actually inside somebody's commerce. I think we'd like to take it outside. I know my staff would. My staff like the outdoors now, all of a sudden, all 4 of us. 6 soon. But we'll be doing some business in the patio in the parking lot, and we have a patio out front. And I think I hope other restaurants and stores will do the same. I hope that they take advantage of like the sidewalk and doing sort of, guerrilla marketing and stuff like that, and really shaking it up a bit. You can find us at Absinthe Cafe at 1208 Wellington Street West in Hintonburg, and you can find us online at absinthecafe.ca.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
He's been minding Ottawa's business. Tom Korski is back from Blacklock's reporter. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, Rob.
So set the scene for us. Yesterday, it was the Public Safety Committee, the House of Commons Public Safety Committee. Who was there?
Well, there were executives of the crowdfunding platforms that had seen millions in donations for the Freedom Convoy. Who asked for these hearings? Well, the opposition did. New Democrats and Liberal MPs wanted to get to the bottom of what they called extremist fundraising through these crowdfunding platforms. I don't think the committee hearing went the way they expected, Rob.
Okay. So who appeared before this committee?
Executives with GoFundMe and Give, Send, Go. And what they said was that the narrative that was put out by Cabinet was simply false. You recall, for instance, Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair said this was a foreign-funded, extremist, seditious campaign that would topple government itself. Wrong, and wrong. It was largely Canadian. According to GoFundMe, said about 86% of donations were Canadian. It was overwhelmingly Canadian, not foreigners. Did you see any Nazis, any criminal organizations? GoFundMe was asked. No, he said, we looked. We compared all the credit card records.
Okay.
Didn't find that. Give, Send, Go says, you know what the average size of the donation was per individual? It was about $100. So Cabinet has a problem, Rob, right? Bill Blair's disapproval of the Freedom Convoy is well known, but the question wasn't whether Bill Blair wanted the Freedom Convoy to date his sister. The question was whether there was justification to declare a national emergency. Cabinet's got a real problem, Rob.
Okay, so it was $10.1 million through GoFundMe, and the executive from GoFundMe, Juan Benitez, president of GoFundMe of Redwood City, California, appears before this House of Commons committee and says 86% of the donors were from Canada. So you're talking, I mean, it's like 8.5 of the $10 million came from Canadian donors. Now, in terms of there being ties to extremist elements or terrorist elements or neo-Nazi elements, people on no flight lists, nothing like that, according to the witnesses who testify. Is that right, Tom?
And they looked.
Yeah. Okay.
An MP, Dane Lloyd, from Sturgeon Falls out in Alberta asked, and he says, "Yeah, we looked. We went through all the credit card information, so you can find." Home address, then you have a name, then you can do your search. Nothing. No criminal organizations, no foreign Nazis, nothing.
Okay, interesting. So let's jump from there because, what prompted that whole thing was the cross-border trucker issue and the need to be vaccinated in order to cross into the United States. And there was some talk during the convoy that they may impose a similar vaccine mandate for interprovincial truck drivers. What's the latest on that?
This was good. This was Labor Minister O'Regan. He announced that back in December 7th. He said, we're looking at this. Interprovincial haulers are going to have to show proof of vaccination. You want to drive into Manitoba, good luck to you. Proof of vaccination. The pork industry said, not if you plan to eat meat again. Forget it. This is going to be the camel that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back. Quote, unquote, they testified in committee. Labor Minister O'Regan says, you know what, Rob, the science has changed.
The science has changed. Okay.
There's been an outbreak of new science, and there will be no interprovincial vaccine mandate. New science, big news.
Yeah. The political science has changed, I think. That's the science that's changed.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I remain puzzled as to why the federal government has yet to do anything about the Canadian holdings of Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich. I mean, it's no secret. He is a major investor in the steel company called Evraz. And Evraz, it's no secret, all you have to do is read Blacklock's Reporter, has operations, 4 of them, in Canada. Regina, Calgary, Red Deer, and Camrose,
Alberta, that's right.
In Alberta. What has Blacklock's found out this week?
Well, the answer to your question is there's 2,000 reasons, and that's how many jobs Evraz has. That's how many Canadians it has on its payroll. Biggest steelmaker west of the Great Lakes. The Russian investors who own that company and have collected fabulous dividends, billions a year, also have plants in other locations, including Chicago, the United States, and, of course, Russia, where they are, the Commons was told, supplying steel for Putin's war machine. But the problem that Cabinet has when they want to really punish, we want sanctions that bite, says Minister Freeland, is those 2,000 jobs. Same with a Russian-owned tractor manufacturer in Manitoba, Bueller, that makes versatile tractors and Farm King implements. Now we're talking real jobs and real money right in Canada. That gets a little bit close, Robin. That's, I think, why Cabinet likes to go with performative sanctions, not the real ones.
Yeah. It makes you, what would be the options? What would you do?
Exactly.
Like, do you move in and nationalize it or something? I don't know.
Exactly. So these are serious industrial plants in these. Regina's not a large city, and Evraz is a huge employer. Even when Cabinet yesterday announced 35% tariffs on Russian imports, we import 5 times as much from North Dakota. So just before, we're not exactly on a war footing, if you get my meaning.
This company, Evraz, and these Canadian operations, apparently making a lot of the pipe for the Trans Mountain pipeline as well. So, all right. What else do we have? Yes, I mentioned the real estate numbers were out for Ottawa. 837.5 residential class property.
Wow.
Same
That's a wow.
This week. Yeah, just yesterday, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board came out with its average selling price data for the GTA for the month of February, up 28% compared to last year, 17% here in Ottawa. A detached home in Toronto is now close to $2 million. $2 million.
It might as well be a trillion, right?
Yeah. So there was testimony this week from the Superintendent of Financial Institutions this week, about Canada's housing supply. What did he have to say?
He told the Senate Banking Committee the problem is you're not building enough houses. Home builders, ironically, have said this for years. He says you're short, by their calculation, about 40,000 houses in terms of meeting market demand, young families and immigrants, a year. 40,000 a year. And there was a former governor of the Bank of Canada, Stephen Pullos, who's now a banker, who tells the Bank Committee at the Senate, the problem is that government red tape won't let the private sector solve your problems. When have you ever heard that from a public manager before? But this has been the complaint of the home building industry for years. It was a great liberal C.D. Howe said, Rob, you can never have shortages for long in a capitalist society. It's impossible, right? Supply, demand.
Right.
But in this case, you have the number one bank regulator and the former central banker for the entire federation saying, you're not letting people build enough houses. It's your fault. Stop it.
All right. Who is the CRTC CEO having beers with?
Just another telecom lobbyist. What's the harm?
Right.
God bless him, Ian Scott. He has some answering to do, photographed in a bar, having a beer in an hour-long session with the CEO of Bell,
right,
which just happened to want to overturn a CRTC decision, which the CRTC did 5 months later. Problem, the opponents of this CRTC decision have tried to establish just how it was that Canada's number one telecom regulator just happened to run across the number one private telecom lobbyist in a bar room in Ottawa, and they just happened to stumble into an hour-long conversation over drinks concerning business before the CRTC. Ottawa, that's my town. Do you know that town, Rob? Because that's my town.
Lobby Watch is must-read material on Blacklock's Reporter. I was going through Lobby Watch today, as a matter of fact. Oracle, very busy, big tech company. Oracle, very busy. Just happened to notice that. But I don't think this, this little get-together over beers will show up on Lobby Watch on Blacklock's Reporter.
Well, this is the thing. I stopped over. I was having a drink.
Just a coincidence. And suddenly, there's Mirko Bibic, the CEO of Bell Canada.
Wait, Mark, where have you been?
Mirko! Hey, bartender, barkeep. Yeah, all right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
next
Rob.
week. Bye-bye. Next round's on me. That's Tom Korski minding Ottawa's business. And aren't we lucky to have him? You're on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, March 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, minus 13. In Smiths Falls, minus 12. And here's what's making news this hour. The International Atomic Energy Agency says a building hit by Russia at Europe's biggest nuclear power plant was not part of the reactor. Russia hit a training center at that Ukrainian plant. No radiation was released and crews did put out a fire. Now, Ukrainian officials have said Russian troops did take control of the overall site. Ukrainians, though, still in control of the reactor. The impact on the local community of this Russian invasion has been great, and tonight on Rogers TV at 6, a special edition of the monthly program Ukrainian Profile will be held. Now, Derek Fage will join the co-host for an examination of this invasion by Russian forces on a one-hour special, which will include guests from the Ukrainian Embassy, the Ukrainian Congress, and the University of Ottawa. Province's Deputy Premier Christine Elliott has decided she will not seek re-election in the coming provincial election. That date is June 2nd. The health minister making that official on social media this morning. Also deciding not to run, Randy Hillier. The Lanark-Kingston Frontenac MPP is currently an independent and has been in the legislature since 2007. City News Time, 9:31. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Derek Fage is with me, host of Daytime Ottawa, Rogers Television. Derek?
Good morning, Rob.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
Well, I'm excited. I've just heard about this special broadcast that's airing. I want to know all about it here. So.
Yeah, really excited about it, Rob. Andrew just mentioned some of the guests, but we've got a great lineup of guests. Full hour show. We're going to split it up into 3 blocks. So we actually have the charge d'affaires from the Ukrainian Embassy here in Canada. We have the 2 hosts and community producers for our show, Ukrainian Profile, on Rogers TV. We do a lot of cultural programming, and then we have the National Secretary of the Ukrainian Congress of Canada, Ferry DeKirchhoff, who former Canadian ambassador. Yeah, he's going to be joining us.
Yeah.
We also have, we actually have a resident of Kyiv who's going to join us. She is in Kyiv at the moment, so we'll get an idea of what it's like there on the ground. She's also the executive director of the National Research Foundation of Ukraine. So just a fantastic lineup, and really we have an immigration lawyer, Warren Kreitz, joining us as well. So a lot of different perspectives, and I think it's going to be great because, some of the things we wanted to touch on, of course, is how people, the Ukrainian community is feeling here in Canada, 1.4 million Ukrainians here in Canada. Yep. And we also wanted to break it down and just give some history, Rob, because we felt that some people just don't understand how it got to this point. So we'll certainly be talking about that and giving people a better understanding of what's happening, and then of course how to support, because a lot of people are feeling helpless at the moment.
Sure. So what time? Do you know what time that's on? Or
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock
tonight.
So,
okay.
Yeah, okay. We're pre-recording it earlier today, just because, as you can imagine, difficult to get all those people together.
Oh yeah, sure.
So we're doing it pre-recording it in 3 blocks, and then we'll air the entire show at 6 o'clock this evening.
And it's an hour long.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll repeat throughout the weekend as well. So people can go over to rogerstv.com and check out the schedule.
Yeah, what a great initiative. Well done by everyone at Rogers Television for that.
Much credit to Gavin Lumsden, our station manager, and
he's
Dan
amazing,
Newton and Arthur Leviton. We've all been working sort of for the last 72 hours trying to book a real variety of guests. So hats off to everybody. It's been a great team effort.
Boy, we should see if we can take that and run it on the radio. Holy cow, that sounds like
absolutely. I think that's I was actually going to bring that up to Gavin over at Rogers TV, is to recommend that you guys carry that at some point on the radio, because I think it's going to be an excellent
sounds
conversation.
Like there's a lot of good material there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you watch it on television, but it's also like the first social media war, right? I mean, there's TikTok videos and tweets and YouTubers and everything else. As you watch this, what's going through your mind here?
Oh, I think like many, Rob, like I said, feeling a little bit helpless, of course. There are, by the way, volunteer opportunities. I have family members that are going to be volunteering at the Ukrainian church on Byron here in Ottawa. They're going to be sorting a bunch of supplies that have been donated. So if people are looking for some, there are opportunities. So if you are feeling helpless, certainly encourage you to go online and have a look at how you can donate beyond just money. There's volunteer opportunities, and all they're asking is for your time as well. So if people can't, if they can't donate monetarily, there's those opportunities. And I guess I'm feeling, just looking at it, Rob, just how absolutely unnecessary this is. It's a completely unnecessary war. It's a push for power for Putin, and I think it's nothing more than that. He's been calling NATO's expansion over the years. He's been constantly calling it, menacing and a major threat to his country. That Ukraine joining NATO is going to be a major threat to his country, and it just goes on and on. He believes that he honestly believes that Ukraine is fundamentally a part of Russia, just as Belarus he feels is, and obviously he's getting the support of Belarus. Holds a lot of sway. And if that's
how he feels about Belarus and Ukraine, do you think he doesn't feel the same way about Lithuania and Latvia and everything else, right? And then
where does it stop?
Where does it stop? Exactly. Where does it stop, right? And I had a commentary this week where I said it's kind of a round trip for people. You and I are the same age, like Gen Xers, right? And we kind of came of age with the fall of the wall, right? And the end of the Cold War and this feeling that, the good guys won. And we have all of these millions of people in all of these countries who were living with the darkness of tyranny, who long to be free, and now they're free. Yeah. And now it's you feel like there's another descent of another Iron Curtain is coming down again.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, there's such a great sense of anxiety, Rob, as you said. You and I seeing that, and many of our listeners having gone through that. There's a sense of anxiety, especially when you hear the word nuclear again, being brought up by Putin, and you just wonder, how far is this going to go? It is really scary, and we all live in our little bubbles, and for those people that live in a bubble, expand a little bit and try to get a better understanding of where we're at and how incredibly serious this situation is.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the cost of living.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
$1.73.
Oh, geez.
This morning for gas. Probably going to go higher. We'll have to wait and see. It will most certainly go higher if this carbon tax increase goes ahead in April.
Yeah.
It's not just an energy story. It's not just an energy story. Like I'm hooked on following all the financial market stuff that's related to this, and I've been following the agricultural side of this as well, because Ukraine is like the breadbasket of Europe. Like corn prices, wheat prices, oat prices.
If we thought the cost of groceries was bad, 3 weeks ago, it is going to get so much worse. And that again, Rob, speaking to the seriousness of the situation, is there is a great trickle down effect. And let's not forget, we're thinking of Ukraine, of course, and its people, and there are also Russians who don't want to be a part of this war, and they are going to suffer incredibly.
Oh, yeah.
Their economy is completely collapsing. The ruble is down 40% to the U.S. dollar. Interest rates are doubled. I mean, there's so many people that are going to suffer worldwide, not just in that area of Europe. It's just going to continually expand. I will say I'm certainly impressed by a lot of the sanctions and support and countries coming together. More needs to be done, but again, you know what it's like, Rob. You speak to politicians all the time, and the inner workings of politics and how they negotiate all these things. Unfortunately, it takes time.
Okay. What do you think about this finger pointing on LRT? Now, I'm not surprised that this is happening. There's going to be a public inquiry. These two sides, the city and RTG, they're at each other in court, right? There's the possibility that the city could cancel that billion-dollar maintenance contract, so there's a lot at stake. And now RTG's line is, hey, wasn't us. It wasn't us, okay?
Which is ridiculous.
It's not our fault. It's not our fault. All the first-year problems and all the breakdowns and all of that stuff, we were under political pressure.
Of course they were.
By Jim Watson and his people to launch this thing. And, if it wasn't ready, that's on the mayor. And the mayor says, well, of course, we didn't rush it. It was a year behind schedule. So I don't know. What do you believe at this point?
Well, one of the quotes that stood out to me from them, I believe it was from Matthew Slade, is the completion of the $2.1 billion Confederation line was more than a year late because of that. And because of that, there was intense political pressure to bring the system into service. Well, what did you expect?
Right.
It's a year late.
It's a year late.
Expect political pressure?
Yeah.
Political pressure is exactly what should have happened. And by the way, there wasn't just political pressure. There was public pressure, right?
Yeah.
From us, the citizens of Ottawa, who were watching this absolute disaster form in front of our eyes. And, we also found out about, in the meantime, about the bidding process and how they failed on the technical grade. That's on the mayor and city council. But as far as it being late and a year late, and then all of a sudden there's political pressure and you were surprised by this? No, I don't buy that for a second. There should have been political pressure, and there was political pressure for good reason.
Okay. According to Dr. Moore, Dr. Kieran Moore is Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health. He says things are looking up. Case counts are down. Hospitalizations are down. We may be able to ditch the mask. Are you ready to ditch the mask, or will you keep a few handy? What do you think?
I think I'm going to keep it handy still. And it's interesting. I don't know if you follow Gord Miller from TSN online, but he's in Florida doing the Sens game yesterday, and a day or two ago, he had mentioned that he was wearing his mask. He was out and about in Florida, and people were getting on him about it. And shaming him for it.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to get into this divide. So, if you're for or against masks, that's fine. If we take away masks and people are wearing masks, let's just let
it slide.
Just let
to
it
each
slide.
their own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares? What do you care? And by the way, the masking has also helped incredibly bring down the flu, the common cold. So it's kind of a win-win situation. You don't want to wear it, great, but guess what? They're actually doing you a favor by wearing the mask. So what do you care? I think I'm going to continue for a little while, to be honest, Rob.
Okay.
Because there's no big deal. I want to walk into the grocery store for 15 minutes to get my groceries with a mask on, or walk into a restaurant and wear it until I sit at the table. I'm just more comfortable, and that'll change down the road. But for now, I'm going to keep it.
Gotcha. I have a new puppy. Got a new puppy this week. Yeah. Springer Spaniel puppy.
Beautiful.
We waited, we must have waited a year and a half to get this puppy from a well-known breeder in the Peterborough area.
Okay.
Friend of my wife's father. My wife's father, my father-in-law, has had Springer Spaniels his whole life. And he's really serious about it, like hunting and training and doing everything. Yeah. For us, it's more just a house pet.
Right.
But, my gosh.
Not going into dog shows?
No, nothing like that. But my gosh, you don't get much sleep with a new puppy. I forgot what it's like with a puppy. Man, man. And he's only about the size of a loaf of bread right now. So he's very small and everything.
But very vocal.
Not too bad. Not too bad. It doesn't like being in the crate very much, but you've got to do that. But I got to tell this story. Yeah, I got time. So my wife and I, we're kind of working in shifts with the puppy. And I'm taking the early morning shift because I'm a super early riser.
Right.
And got to take, he's whining a little bit, so I take him out. Get my boots on, get my coat on, put my toque on. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm, I'm going up and down the driveway. All right. Monty is his name, Monty.
Oh, I like it. Good name, Monty.
Let's go, buddy. Let's go. Like, go. I'm out there for like 10, 15 minutes. Nothing. I'm like, he must have been pulling a fast one for me. I bring him back into the house, take the leash off, put him down on the kitchen floor, and what is the first thing he does? Squats right there and does his business right on the kitchen floor. I'm like, you little bugger.
Hey, at least it wasn't on the carpet because, listen, they love going to the most inappropriate spots. I am actually living the opposite. So I have a rescue dog that was a guest on Daytime many years ago. Stewie is his name.
Stewie,
he's a Jack Russell, and he's older now. So he's 14 years old.
Holy cow.
And now I've got, what a puppy used to do. Now he's doing it because he's starting to lose a little bit of bladder control. And we have literally rivers of urine sometimes.
Oh, jeez.
He hasn't his hearing is going a bit. His sight is going a bit as well.
Yeah.
So I feel your pain. I think mine's more painful because I'm like, listen, we've already learned all of this.
Yeah.
And now you're doing it again.
Yes.
Why?
Yes. But then they look at you with those puppy dog eyes and all is forgiven, right? Yeah. That's what gets you.
We've got a Maltese as well, and they can suck up to you real well.
All right. Retired Lieutenant General Andrew Leslie is going to join us next about the situation in Ukraine. Again, Derek's special on Ukraine tonight at 6. On Rogers Television. Encourage everyone to watch that. Thank you so much for doing that and for your time today, Derek.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Rob.
Derek Fage from Rogers Television. This is the Rob Snow Show. City News.
I'm blessed to be married to someone who is a scientist and spent a lot of time following what was happening over in China ahead of time. So he did give us the heads up that this was coming. Not that we believed him right off the bat, but when it did happen very, very quickly, we were prepared. We had hand sanitizer and we were set up to not close our doors. So we locked the kitchen down at Wellington Street, but we left this kitchen open. We put in protocols immediately. We only allowed our very small crew of 4 or 5 people in at the time. No deliveries were allowed to come in or out of the building without, they just weren't allowed in and out of the building. So we met them at the loading dock and had very strict protocols in place right away. We had masks and hand sanitizer and the whole thing. So we're very lucky from that perspective, and we're able to, learn as we went as far as doing small, individually packed caterings, the frozen soup program, food for the Ottawa mission. So we didn't have to close the kitchen and then learn how to reopen it. We just were able to modify and shift as we needed to. Because of our partnership with the Ottawa mission, we were able to very quickly help support them. They were able to send us some product and some supplies, so it wasn't a burden on our business, and we were able to supply the staffing and the packaging to help produce that when they needed it the most. And we produced about 1,400 meals a week to complement their meals, and we started our soup program right away. We realized very quickly that there was a need in the community to get together and all work together, not only to support local, but also just to support all the people that were suddenly in a position of, being locked down and not being able to get out. So by starting that soup program, our community, our clients got online and started making donations for the soups, and we were able to produce the soups and get them back out to people that needed it. We're right now currently making 150 liters of soup per week, but we've made, I would say, 5,000 or 6,000, easily since the pandemic. Probably more. I'd have to do the math, but lots. I think everybody in the city has to be very aware of how blessed we were to have great weather this summer and people were able to get out and about, and that's going to shift. So we do have to be much more aware of who our most vulnerable is, and I really think we have to work together as groups. There are so many organizations in the city that are doing something and contributing and working together. And I think it doesn't matter who, but see what you can do to just step up and help them, whatever it is, whether it's driving or delivering food, or someone has extra zucchini in their garden, or if they can afford to donate some money to any of these organizations. I just think we all have to work together. We're smarter and wiser than we were the first time.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
Russian forces are now occupying the site of Europe's largest nuclear power plant. An attack ignited a fire at that complex. That fire's out, but it raises the stakes in President Putin's invasion of Ukraine. We're joined this morning by retired Canadian Lieutenant General, the Honorable Andrew Leslie. He was Deputy Commander of the NATO Land Forces in Afghanistan and is a former MP for the riding of Orleans. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm okay. What is your reaction to the news of this military assault on Europe's largest nuclear power plant?
Well, it's typical of, frankly, the sociopath who's running Russia right now. Complete disregard for societal norms. Doesn't appear to give a damn about the innocents that surround the power plant. And of course, he's the one who launched the assault, so he's directly responsible.
What do you think that says about his state of mind?
Excellent question, Rob. Therein lies the danger. Look, he had 4 months to assemble 200,000 combat troops in the Ukrainian border. A whole bunch of people were saying, look out, he could attack. And then he did. Unfortunately, those warnings were disregarded. So that's a failure. I mean, Putin is responsible for the tragedies that are unfolding in Ukraine. Make no mistake about it. But it's also a failure, if you would, of deterrence, of diplomacy, and political leadership. But that's to be reviewed later. What we have to do now is we have to respond and get ahead of the decision cycle. Because this guy is not stopping, and we have to create a bulwark along the frontier, if you would, of the Ukraine and the NATO countries, because deterrence and strength is the only thing that he'll respond to. Compassionate, care for the sick and the elderly Ukrainian citizens, he could care less.
A few days ago, you tweeted this, quote, though many will deny or disagree, Canada and our allies should be preparing for war. Ukraine is doing all the fighting for now. What kind of preparations should Canada be making, for example?
The Ukraine government, and bless their leadership, bless the citizens for the remarkable historical passion and vigor in which they're putting into defending their country and their families. They have been asking for years for lethal support in terms of weapons. And Canada was very slow off the mark. We didn't really send anything until 1 or 2 days before the attack, and now we're starting to, which is good. But that doesn't create a context for trying to solve this. And the way we solve this is we stop the Russian bear from rampaging further past the Ukraine. And that right now will give time for NATO to get ready, because frankly, NATO is not ready at this moment to do anything. NATO does not have the aircraft in place. It doesn't have the ground troops in place. There are no other options for NATO right now except for defense and to try and deter them from going further. And after that, we'll see. What the Canadian Armed Forces is wrong. What Canada now has to do is do some hard things. I mean, the sanctions, that was good work. Still ongoing. It's going to bite. Helping Ukrainian refugees come to Canada, let's hope we do an awful lot better than we did with the Afghan citizens who helped us so bravely. I mean, that was just last year where there was a whole bunch of problems trying to get them in. I'm confident that'll be resolved.
Okay.
The hard thing is to decide to send soldiers to help reinforce the Baltics, where we already have a bunch. We've already got about 600 in Latvia, and they need reinforcement, and they need it now. And this is a come-as-you-are activity. Not 3 months, not 2 months. Right now, start moving them.
Okay.
Just like other nations are doing.
So for example, the government has said we have 3,400 on standby. They should be mobilized, you think?
Well, they should have been warned off, and they should be moving towards the assembly points now.
Okay.
And they're not.
Okay.
The equipment should be started to be loaded aboard aircraft now, which is why we bought the big C-17s. We committed to 3,400. And let's not forget that our allies are moving tens of thousands, but Canada is not.
Okay. On an almost daily basis now, the president of Ukraine is begging for a no-fly zone to be established over his country. What would be the implications of such an action?
Well, unfortunately, that would almost certainly trigger World War III because Russia will object to the no-fly zone, which means that NATO aircraft, which are not well positioned yet to actually go in there, would have to be fighting Russian aircraft. And then, or at the same time, they'd be fighting the swarms of surface-to-air missile systems that maneuver wherever the Russian army might be concentrated. So it would be a shooting and bombing war, and you would then have NATO in direct fighting contact with Russia, and that would be the precursor trigger to World War III, in my opinion.
Wow, holy smokes, okay. In a recent report from Murray Brewster, the national defense correspondent for the public broadcaster, he noted this, quote, "The Canadian Army has no air defenses to keep soldiers safe from aerial attack. Aging jets are vulnerable to Russia's air defense system. The Navy has no supply ships that can operate in a war zone. Budget documents suggest 65% of Army equipment and vehicles are serviceable, and 60% of the air fleet is operational. Just how prepared are we if this becomes a wider war?"
Well, the answer is we're as prepared as we're going to be. Unfortunately, a whole bunch of folk from a variety of political parties have cashed in a peace dividend over the last couple of decades. They ramped up and did a great job of doing so very quickly for the Afghan war, but that was limited in context and scope. This has the potential to be so much bigger. And let's not forget the mindset of Putin, who is our enemy. He won't stop because he only respects force. He attacked because he thought he could win, because he couldn't see force being deployed to stop him. So those who say, oh, he'll stop at the Ukraine, don't worry, let's give diplomacy a chance, or the sanctions will do it all. Those are the same folk who said he wouldn't attack a week ago, and here we are. So the armed forces has enough to make a meaningful contribution. Some hard calls are going to have to be made. But the key is to get them into Latvia, which is not at war. There's no combat action there, as a deterrent force ready to stop Putin from eyeing the possibility of going further. That's job one right now.
Thank you so much for your time this morning, sir. It's greatly appreciated.
And thanks for what you do, Rob. Yeah. Thanks for keeping the topic alive.
All the best, sir. Yeah. That's retired Canadian Lieutenant General, the Honorable Andrew Leslie, a one-time Deputy Commander of NATO Land Forces in Afghanistan and a former MP for Orleans. The Talkback Hour, next. Friday Free for All, 750-1310. Line for you right now, whatever's on your mind. Let me hear it, 750-1310. This is City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, March 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, it's minus 14 degrees, minus 12 in Smiths Falls, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Russia has been using banned weapons in Ukraine, bringing even more condemnation on that country's president for the attack on Ukraine. We get the latest from City News reporter Irene Precklett.
We're going to start off talking about cluster bombs, and they are banned by an international treaty, but Russia not among the countries to sign it. The Secretary General of NATO confirming this morning Russia has used cluster bombs in Ukraine. He calls Russia reckless, with many civilians killed or hurt.
This is the worst military aggression in Europe for decades. With cities under siege, schools, hospitals, and residential buildings shelled.
He says things will likely get worse in the coming days with more deaths and destruction. And the air raid sirens are now going off in a number of cities, including the capital and in Odessa, where volunteers have been spending the day filling sandbags to try and protect their city against the Russians. Irene Precklett, City News.
City News time, 10:01 now. A special edition of Ukrainian Profile will air tonight at 6 o'clock on Rogers TV. Hosted by Derek Fage and the regular hosts of that program, it will study the impact of the Russian invasion. Special guests will include scholars, representatives from Ukrainian Embassy and the Ukrainian Congress. Host Derek Fage tells City News we'll also hear from someone who is right now in Kyiv.
We actually have a resident of Kyiv who's going to join us. She is in Kyiv at the moment, so we'll get an idea of what it's like there on the ground. She's also the executive director of the National Research Foundation of Ukraine.
Now, the 1 hour special begins at 6 on Rogers TV. That is cable 22 on the Rogers system in Ottawa. City News time, 10:02. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Just a lot of cloud for most areas today with a chance of some flurries. We are under a special weather statement, though. Now, not for today. This is for late Saturday night into Sunday. There could be several hours of freezing rain. Again, late Saturday night, early Sunday. For today, the high, -4.
And right now in Smiths Falls, it's minus 12 degrees. It's minus 13 in Ottawa. As our Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern told us this morning, Christine Elliott will not seek re-election in June. The Deputy Premier and Health Minister will stay on in those roles, though, until that vote June 2nd. After considerable reflection and discussion with her family, she says she decided not to reoffer. Premier Doug Ford says Elliott has been a close personal friend to him for decades and has supported him since the beginning of the COVID pandemic. There will be a mixture of sadness and glee, not at that decision, but another. A potential candidate bowing out, that is Lanark Kingston Frontenac Independent Representative Randy Hillier. He has decided not to reoffer in the June election either. Nurses are taking their fight with the province to the steps of an MPP's office at noon hour today. Ontario Nurses Association wants the province to repeal Bill 124. They say that decreases their pay because it caps increases at 1% per year. That is well below the rate of inflation. Nurses will rally at Jeremy Roberts' office at 1580 Merivale. That is scheduled from noon until just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. And your help needed to find a missing woman. 78-year-old Louise Hasbani has been last seen in the Barrhaven area around Cedarview and Fallowfield yesterday morning at 11 o'clock. She could be driving a black 2012 Nissan Versa. Anyone who thinks they spot her is asked to contact Ottawa Police. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
And it's the Friday free-for-all. And that's our favorite hour of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics. You come up with the topics. And we just do our best to roll with it. We usually talk about things that have been in the news. And a whole lot of news this week. But it doesn't have to be in the news. Maybe it's something you think should be in the news. Whatever it is. We are usually good to go at 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. My gosh, what a week. It flew by. You know, that's one thing about being in the news business. There are short weeks when the news comes at you fast and furious like it did this week. I mean, There's the war. There's the price of gas because of the war. We had an interest rate hike this week from the Bank of Canada. First time that's happened in almost 5 years. The Conservative Party leadership race is starting to take shape. We had all kinds of instability again at the Ottawa Police Services Board. We had the news about the launch of Ottawa's troubled light rail system. Any one of those would make a good top story on any given day, and we had them all in the run of a week. It just doesn't stop. Oh, and remember Monday, which seems like a lifetime ago now, the province reopened on Monday, right? It relaxed all of those pandemic restrictions. That was Monday. That was Monday. But now, here we are on Friday, and, whatever's going on with the pandemic, it doesn't even seem like it's big news anymore. So Friday free for all. We have one line available, and that's it, but it's yours if you call 750-1310. Mike in Ottawa. Mike.
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
I'm okay, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I just want to get your take on Jagmeet Singh and his decision to support Trudeau with the Emergencies
Is
Act.
he still around, Jagmeet Singh?
Yeah, he is. Do you think that this is going to hurt him politically? Just because when I look online, there's a lot of hate on him for supporting Trudeau, and even me. I've voted NDP in the past.
Yeah.
And I will never vote for them again.
The big problem,
just for that.
a lot of people are giving him heat for that because of the way the War Measures Act vote went in 1970. When the NDP was the conscience of the Parliament and voted against Pierre Elliott Trudeau's use of the War Measures Act. So there's a lot of historical comparisons going on. But also, like, bigger picture, what's the relevance of the NDP now?
Well,
what is the difference? What's the difference between a Trudeau Liberal and a Singh-led New Democrat?
I don't think there is one.
Not much, right?
And I think that's the point. I think I don't know if he's done. I'm very curious to see what that act is going to have on the next election, if they're going to have as many seats or whatnot. But I think it's going to hurt him severely at the polls when the time comes.
I think the whether it was deliberate, a masterstroke, I don't know, because I really don't think the Trudeau Liberals are all that smart, and I don't want to give them too much credit, but they have moved the party so much to the left, the Liberal Party, that they've just completely enveloped the New Democrats. They've basically made the New Democrats irrelevant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And maybe they can find new relevance if they find a new leader.
I think he's done as a leader. I think he's done as a leader.
You think he's done as a leader? Well, I don't know. If Jason Kenney wasn't performing so poorly in Alberta, I would say to them, why aren't you looking at Rachel Notley? Maybe there's your new NDP leader. But anyway. All right, Mike, good to hear from you. Thank you. Thank you for calling. Yep, 750-1310, Friday Free for All, Rob Snow Show, Talk Back Hour. Old Ottawa South. Stan.
Hey, Rob, how are you doing?
Hi, Stan. I'm okay. Stan?
Okay, Putin and Napoleon, same person.
Putin and Napoleon, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Attacking countries and making them bigger, getting the countries to their side.
Okay. All right.
And I heard during the week that Putin has to be let off easy, so he has to save face. He can be defeated, but he has to save face.
Find a way out so he can save face. Well, yeah.
He can win, but lose at the same time.
Right. Yeah. I think. Don't you think we're kind of beyond that now, Stan?
I think we are very much so. Yeah.
The guy is attacking. He launched an attack against a nuclear power plant, Stan.
I think he should be brought to the Court of International Justice.
In The Hague.
That's
as
right.
a war criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a war criminal. There was no reason for him to attack Ukraine, none whatsoever.
I agree with that. Yes, sir.
I'm a Polak, okay?
Oh, you are? Okay.
I'm
okay.
beside Ukraine, so
Yeah, sure.
we're
sure.
kissing cousins.
Well, I mean, now you have 500,000 Ukrainians have fled into Poland.
Yes.
Now, what is the capacity, I wonder, for Poland to absorb that many refugees in, 8-9 days?
I think they can do it. Poland is a little bit smaller than Ukraine.
Right.
Ukraine 44, Poland 38.
But I mean, do they have like the social services and the housing units? I mean, people have to eat and live and find jobs and all of these things, right? So,
Rob, we have to understand that it's not the Canadian standards. Families could all live in one room, believe it or not, Rob.
Okay.
So, in that sense, yes.
All right.
They're not going to live a life of luxury, but at least they'll live a life of freedom,
Right. What about language, Stan? Is that going to be a barrier, do you think?
Very close.
Very
Believe it or
close?
not,
Okay.
Rob,
Yeah, okay.
When I hear Ukrainian and Polish,
Yeah.
I can understand words. Now, very close.
Okay. Look, very interesting to take your call today, Stan. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Rob.
really nice to hear from you. That's really interesting. Let's take this one. Lance in Ottawa. Lance.
Hi, I just wanted to talk about the high price of oil. And
Sure thing, yeah.
At the current rates that are jacking up, the food costs and everything else is going to go up another 10-15%. I think this is a national security issue that should be dealt with right away with the federal government and start being self-sufficient on our own oil prices. I don't know why everybody's dragging their feet on this. Currently, the world is we're giving money to not necessarily Canada, but the Western countries are giving money to Russia in order to carry on with their war. If Canada was self-sufficient and was able to export oil and natural gas and everything else, you'd have no war chest, and the war would eventually come to an end, and they'd have to make their military not as large as it currently is.
Yeah, all good points, and you'll get very little argument from me.
So I don't understand. Like you had Horvath saying, well, the poor PSW is paying more money, but it's the NDP and all. It's the NDP that's opposes any new oil refinery.
Oh yeah, and fossil fuel development is bad, right? Anything to do with carbon-intensive industries is bad, right?
Yeah, so it should be. I think it's come to a time where it's
I think this is going to be a real wake-up call for a lot of people.
Well, it's a good wake-up call.
Right.
Look at how cheap the oil, it was just 2 years ago. You can say about Trump, but they were self-sufficient. And then Biden gets in, he starts squashing all these oil development programs.
Well, I mean, I find it incredible. There's Joe Biden. He's begging oil-producing nations we need more oil. We need more oil. The high gas prices are killing the American middle class and the working class of the United States. Well, hello, why did you cancel Keystone XL? You dummy, right?
I don't know what to say, but I think you're right. I think this is going to be a wake-up call because even with electric cars and everything else, we're going to be using oil for thousands of years. If you look at all your products, they're all made out of plastics now. So to suggest otherwise that we're not going to be using oil is insane.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye. A couple of lines there. Friday free for all. Dennis, is it Dennis?
Yeah, it's Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Rob. First-time caller.
Appreciate it, sir. What's up?
Yeah, okay. I'm over here by the RGC Park there. And
the baseball park?
Yeah. I think some of the protesters are back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm seeing trucks here with Canadian flags on them.
Okay. In that parking lot by the Marriott, between the Marriott and the ball stadium? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of cars, but there's a over at the conference center there's a thing going on there. They have flags up there, but I think that's for something else. But there's a bunch of trucks and cars from Quebec, so it could be for that. but I'm not sure.
Okay, these trucks that you're seeing, though, in the parking lot.
Yeah.
There. How many would you say?
Oh, there's about 200 of them.
No, go away. Really? Really?
Oh, yeah. The parking lot is full.
Full. And what kind of trucks? Like pickup trucks, big truck?
Yeah,
like
pickup trucks.
Pickup trucks. Okay. Okay. Any honking or noise making, or do you see any Do you see any police around there?
No.
You don't see any police. Okay. All right. You're not pulling my leg, are you, Dennis?
Well, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay. All right.
No, I've seen these guys here when they were here because my wife works at the hotel beside it. And
Okay. So in the parking lot between the Ball Stadium and the Marriott, you're saying it's full of trucks right now with Canadian flags?
Well, I've seen them.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Dennis, we're going to make some calls and look into that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, that's a good news tip. No, I appreciate the call, sir. Yeah, we'll follow up on that. We're going to follow up on that right now to the suite. Yeah, 10:16. This is the Friday free-for-all. If anybody else, if you're in that area, Vanier Parkway, Coventry Road, Tremblay, all around there, if you just happen to, if you could swing by there for me, man, and call me, and if you could confirm what Dennis is seeing, you would just make my day. Okay? Thank you. We'll be right back. This is City News.
An old-fashioned traditional grocery store. You're going to find a butcher, okay? You want a steak cut a certain way, you're going to get it. There's flour piled in the warehouse. There's mixers on the floor. There's flour on the floor. The bakery is rented out to Frank Nicolo. It's him and his son come in at night. They mix the dough, they roll the dough, and they bake the dough. It's not the traditional frozen and thaw and put it in the bin, okay? It's made from scratch 7 days a week. It's probably the only bakery left in Ottawa that does that. Then customer service. We're big on that. The cashiers, the deli. You're not. If you ask for something, they're not going to point. It's an aisle number 7. They're going to bring you there. Okay. If you have too much groceries out, we'll take it up to your car. You know what I mean? There's nothing we don't do for our customers, and we evolved around our customers. They would come in and say, can you try getting me this? Can you get me this? So that's how we built the lineup we have now. Okay. So we have a lot of unique items that someone that came over to live in Canada hasn't seen this particular product, but we sourced it and we have it for them that like something they used to have as a kid. We have a lot of those unique items, a lot, from like all over the world, and we source it through distributors in Montreal and Toronto that bring in the product in bulk, and we piggyback off of them. Probably the largest European deli in Ottawa. We sell lots because people buy lots. It's nothing really complicated about that. We turn over a lot of product. We package it properly. We buy, and we're always consistent. You're always going to find, Cuddy turkey breast, San Daniel mortadella. You're always going to get the same brands. We don't flip back and forth to save 20 cents. It's always the same brands the last 29 years. Best sandwiches in town. It's simple. It starts off with fresh bread every day baked in the store. Anything that's left over goes to breadcrumbs. So you're getting a fresh bun every day that was baked probably 4 hours before you get here, okay? Not only baked, made, like, mix the flour, roll the dough, proof the bread, and bake the bread, okay? Then all the ingredients come right off the shelves. Your lettuce, your tomatoes, all your condiments, and they're cut up fresh in the deli. Not like the big, corporate restaurant chains that your lettuce comes in shredded in a bag, you open it up and you throw it in the bin. Takes, 2 or 3 days to get here from California. How long is it in the bag? The big difference is like making a sandwich at home and you don't have to do the work. It's really what the trick is, and using the freshest ingredients possible.
It's time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Friday free-for-all. Did anybody call you, David, about the Coventry Road situation? Anybody call you?
Not from Coventry, but Sam on line 3's got some information.
Okay, all right. In White Lake, Sam, you're on City News.
Hey, Rob.
Hey.
I just want to say, because I've been driving up and down in town every day, and that field past the truck stop on White Lake Road was quite full for a while, but as of yesterday, and the local rumor, they were asked by the farmer to leave the field by Sunday due to the fact the weather's going to change. And yesterday, coming back home around 5 o'clock, it had thinned out the what appeared to be the tent where they were having a kitchen there, and all dismantled and very little trucks. I'm wondering if they just headed out in town, find a new location for this.
All right.
Stick around. I have no clue why they're sticking around.
Right. Because it's going to get mild. They don't want the trucks in the field, right? So
yeah, they were in a cornfield, and there's no. That's just going to sink. So I believe that rumors had it. The farmer told them that you guys got to get out at one point before it all melts. So
yeah.
So it just.
What's the rumor about where they went?
I did not hear, but you know what? Talking to another neighbor who was talking to the farmer, and it just goes on when you live out here. But someone has pointed out these guys probably have no money to get back home. You know,
right? Yeah.
I thought, well, that's a good point. There's a lot of help needed in Ukraine. If they're real freedom fighters, I think we should all ship them there and do a good deed for us.
All right. Okay, Sam. No, that's another good tip. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Yep. Because I think that's happened at another. There was a few of those kind of spots on the outskirts where the farmer had said, "Look, you got to get out of my field now." Let's take Deborah's call. Deborah, you're on City News. Deborah, good morning.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, Deborah.
You know Melanie Jolie, she's really doing a good job for the Liberal government.
Okay.
But, Trudeau's just banking on getting the Ukrainian vote. 1 million, put me over I'll get a full cabinet.
Come on.
It's so sad to see him doing this. That's what he's doing. It looks like it. And then the next thing that's
what would you expect? Wouldn't you expect any Canadian Prime Minister to do what this Prime Minister is doing right now? Sanctions, providing military hardware.
I call him the Teflon Don.
Yeah, whatever the case might be. But you don't have to find Deborah, look, I have lots of issues with the Trudeau government. You know that. But you don't have to find nefarious motives in everything, okay? Pierre in Orleans. Pierre, you're on City News.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for your call.
You're welcome, Pierre.
I was shocked when I heard Tom, your friend Tom, this morning. You were talking to him.
Tom Korski.
And he came out with the GoFundMe story.
Yeah.
And how it was because the ministers or whoever, the government, said that the majority of this money was from these nefarious places, right? And
they made a big deal of it being a lot of the foreign money, foreign influence, foreign money. Yeah.
Well, again, I get my news from your station and at 91.5. So I alternate between the two.
Okay.
And I take that information that you give me and I make my opinion.
Okay.
And
fair enough.
With the information that I was given by political people that said all this money is from outside interest and from Nazi groups and rebels from the south of the U.S.
Right.
All these ridiculous claims, and it shows paper black and white, obviously, that it's not true.
Well, this is based on testimony from the people who run these crowdfunding platforms. They were called to testify at this parliamentary committee, and this is what they said on the record. It's all there for anyone who wants to see it, watch it, quote it, whatever. Just a fact, right?
So I'm just an average guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm not any different than, I'm different than you because you're on the radio. I'm on the radio too, I guess, for the same.
You are, Pierre. Yeah.
But how do other people gather information? You gather information from news sources that you trust. Now, I'm not blaming the media.
No.
I'm blaming the fact that we're being told lies. The media reported the lies, and I formed an opinion that all these, what these protesters did was criminal. It was, they're terrible that they terrorize the neighborhood and everything else.
Sure.
But they made them out to be something that I believe are not. I believe that it's a group of people And I brought up this comparison with Marie Antoinette. You corrected me. I thought it was Queen Anne or something from France. how the peasants or the servants or whatever you want to call us were fed up with mandates and government interference in our lives. And we don't want cake. We want you to stop the mandates. And it's proof that people that donated $100, and how many people would have to donate $100 to make $8.5 million? That's a lot of people. Right. So a lot of people agreed with this. So we're not a fringe group. It's just we're not all up there on the hill participating. Now, I wouldn't have protested. I think that the mandates are helping us. They're going to make our world better, right? Our city, our country better, and they're going to empty the hospitals. I believe that.
Right.
There's no reason for me. There's no reason not to believe that. But there's a lot of other people that are seriously being hurt by these mandates.
Yes.
Now, you take an owner-operator of a truck, that's a small business. Just like a corner store, just like a shoe repair place, just like any of the small businesses, restaurants or whatever.
Okay.
So they're being hit too. You know, when your mandates are affecting your livelihood and you're going to lose your livelihood.
Fair enough.
I think we've reached a revolt. I don't know if it's a tax revolt. People are just fed up. Our government that we elect to protect us, to take care of us. In my entire life, I'm 63.
Yes.
I've always respected my government, my police. I still have utmost respect for my police. But after hearing officials that we elected do absolutely nothing to stop what happened on the Hill, and then finally Trudeau does something and everybody jumps all over him. Well, nobody else would do anything. What do you want?
Okay.
People want you to do something, but nobody's going to do something.
I got you, Pierre. Look, I got to run because I have to take one more call before the bottom of the hour news here. Let's take this one. Is it Tony?
Yes.
Tony in Orleans. Yeah, good morning, Tony.
Yeah, the previous caller was just touching on the truckers. That's what I wanted to talk about, too, was Tamara Leach.
Tamara Leach, yeah, what about her?
Yeah. Isn't it incredible that she's still being held for a mischief charge?
Yeah. Okay.
Remember in Winnipeg during that all Children Matter, where that guy went and drove over a family of 4?
Okay.
He got bail for. I mean, he ran over a family of 4, and he got bail. And Tamara, she can't get it. And now we find out the judge is a formal liberal candidate.
And there's a review of that. That's under review right now, right? So
understand, and they're not going to review it, or they're not going to decide until Monday. So she gets to spend another weekend in jail.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me. I understand your point. And it certainly doesn't look good that the judge ran for the Liberals or something, right? The judge ran for the Liberals.
Absolutely.
So that's not a good. Impartiality. It's not a good. I'll agree with you. It's not a good look, but you know what? It's hard for me to shed a tear for her. It really is. Okay.
I liked their message. I was not a fan of their methods.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right.
Their method was just horrible.
Yeah.
But people got to remember who allowed them to park where they did. The city. The city blocked off the area and said, "Here, park here."
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, Tony. Yeah, I gotta go. Thank you.
News.
Gotcha. Thank you. Boy, lots of trucker talk today. But let's roll with it. I'm cool with rolling with it. We have, 2 lines available, 1 line available. Grab it, okay? We're halfway there. Friday free-for-all. Rob Snow Show, Talkback Hour, City News.
News in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, March 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, minus 10 degrees, Smiths Falls minus 9. And here's what's making news this hour. UN and Ukrainian officials say no radiation was released from a Russian attack at Europe's biggest nuclear power plant that is in Ukraine. Firefighters have put out the blaze at that facility. Now, Russian forces are still pressing their campaign to cripple the country despite global condemnation. The International Atomic Energy Agency's Director General said today the building hit by a projectile at the plant was not part of the reactor, instead a training center at the plant. A retired lieutenant general and former MP says the West should be making specific moves now to combat this Russian invasion. Andrew Leslie tells the Rob Snow Show there is only one thing Russia's President Putin respects, and that is force. Canada can contribute if there is force needed, but those who feel Putin is going to stop at Ukraine are the same people who said he wouldn't attack in the first place. A special edition of Ukrainian Profile will air tonight at 6 o'clock on Rogers TV. Hosted by Derek Fage and the regular hosts of that program, it will study the impact of the Russian invasion. Special guests include scholars, representatives from the Ukrainian Embassy, and the Ukrainian Congress. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Second half of the Friday free-for-all. All right, we have an update on this Coventry Road situation here. Nepean, a wonderful place to be in. Chris.
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
What do you know, Chris?
I'm not there right now, but I know for a fact there's a Techo Block conference on there, which is a landscaping conference. So there is probably a ton of trucks there regarding that.
Right. Yeah, our newsroom was just following up on that, and Dammy in the newsroom told me it's not the truckers, it's a landscaping convention.
Exactly. So the guy who's fear-mongering, getting everyone to say there's like 500 trucks in the parking lots, don't worry. It's they're just there for work.
Right. Landscapers, right? Driving trucks.
Have a great day, bud.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, nothing to freak out about. They're not back. The truckers are not back, okay? Isn't that funny? Okay, 1034. Let's take this one. Michelle, Ottawa South.
Good morning, Rob.
Hi, Michelle.
This might be something to freak out about.
Okay.
Did we really hear what the retired Lieutenant General Andrew Leslie said? We're not prepared.
Not prepared.
He told us we are not prepared. And if we remember at the start of COVID, our Prime Minister sent our PPE to China, and what happened next? We were unprepared. And we had hospitals asking for donations of PPE. And 2 weeks ago, our Prime Minister sent the gas mask to the Ukraine. And so this last week, he spoke with somebody. I can't remember who exactly it was. It might have been Professor Elliott. But he was describing the types of weapons owned by Russia. And he spoke of one, and he says they have one that sucks the oxygen out of the air.
Thermobaric, yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
So are we prepared? Because hiding in your house is not effective, and donations are not applicable if we're all dead. And I know it sounds like, fear-mongering and exaggerating, but I find that we live in such denial, and we don't see the signs as they're happening. We ignored all the truckers driving. We talked about it every night, but we ignored it. A convoy of Russian tanks. We've been watching them park. For all this time they've been surrounding. We're in denial. We're in denial. Well, we don't want to do it. Well, let somebody else. But we don't want to make trouble. Whether it's announced or not, we are in a world war, and we need to really wake up and look at the consequence of it. And you had a caller on Monday, Roger, and he mentioned perhaps a bounty on Putin. Would all of this stop if Mr. Putin was removed from office? And you had a lady yesterday, she phoned about Pierre Poilievre, and she was incensed that all these people would support this kind of a man. And we just heard the general say, Mr. Putin breeds on weakness. So maybe it's time we look at the news now because I saw a report the other day, a military man speaking about handing guns out to civilians in the Ukraine. And he was talking about how effective a granny in an apartment building can be at picking off enemy soldiers from her apartment before they realize where the shots are coming from. She can really do some damage. So we have now guerrilla grannies. Well, peace through strength, Rob. We don't even have to think about that.
Right.
And for the people that are crying, this is very serious. Wake up.
Sure is.
Speak to your MPs and ask them, what are we doing to be prepared?
Okay. Got you, Michelle. Thank you.
One last thing, though.
All right, quick. Yep.
Okay. If we take actions, we can create better possibilities. And it's time now to take those actions. Because a man like Mr. Putin, if he's losing, he's not going to go out without hitting a few buttons.
Well, I would hate to think so, Michelle. But what who launches a military attack against a nuclear power plant, right? Other than a madman. Anne in Ottawa. Anne. That's a dynamic duo.
Oh, my goodness.
Michelle and then
right, partners in crime.
Partners in crime, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Regarding what she just said, the Russians are shelling a nuclear plant in the Ukraine. Oh, tell me that's not going to have a bad ending. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That is terrifying.
Yes, it is.
But what I want to talk about is I do not hear enough from most of the media personalities about the direct effect from constantly raising carbon taxes on the cost of food and everything else. They lament about the cost of living going up, but they very, very seldom direct it back to that. And they should be, because there is a direct link. You heard what Dan McTeague said yesterday.
Yeah.
Not only is gas going up astronomically, but so is diesel, even more.
Oh, diesel's $1.80, almost $1.84 today in Ottawa. Diesel.
And as you have oft heard, if you bought it, a truck brought it.
Sure.
And if I can wax religious for just 1 minute, okay, this is directly from Jesus, right out of the Bible. Whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, you do unto me. So by that yardstick, the Liberals are pounding the heck out of poor people, and I'm not really so sure Jesus would be on side with that. So I find that very inhumane and immoral.
All right. Thank you, Anne.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I love how she lets me go. Okay, bye. She always says that. She's been calling me for like 10 years. Leo.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Leo.
How are you?
Still around, still kicking, still on this side of the grass. Leo, how about you?
I know.
Kind of feeling like I'm on the back nine right now, but,
Well, the topic today is Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, the reason why I want to talk about him, he's already committed war crimes. And doing the things he's done is already committed war crimes. So the only way to stop this, Rob, from escalating and getting worse, I hate to say this, but they have to take him out. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
You got to get the best special force teams in the world.
Right.
You got to coordinate something.
Okay.
And you got to take this guy out before he does anything else. Because you know what? The longer they take, the more civilian lives are going to lose, or they're going to lose their lives. The more children are going to die. The more innocent people are going to die.
I understand the sentiment. I guess
I'll give you an example.
Leo, just let me say one thing here. There's no guarantee that what comes after Putin would be any better. It could be even worse.
But the thing is,
right?
look, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
The top nuclear scientist for Iran, when Israel found out that he was getting too close, to building a nuclear bomb, what did Israel do? They got their special force involved, and they took him out.
That's true. Yeah.
They took him out, and what happened? They were very successful.
Yeah.
They were very successful because they weren't going to let that go any further. They knew by taking him out that was going to stop the whole thing with this nuclear scientist. You know what I mean? Because if Iran ever gets their hands on a nuclear bomb, you know damn well they're going to use it, eh? So that's why you want to keep. You want to keep their hands off
Take him out. Okay.
But the thing is, I think it's the best possibility that we have, because if you get the guy at the top, it really de-escalates the rest of the escalation. You know?
Yeah. All right, Leo.
And I don't know. It's just like June 6th. What would have happened if we did not prepare for June the 6th? Okay, when we invaded Juno Beach, would we have the freedom we have now? Probably not. We'd be very different than we have. But it took preparation, and it was a very dangerous mission. But we did it. We were successful, and that's why we became the world that we became after that.
Okay,
you know, it changed the whole course of the war.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure did. Thank you. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the top experts in Russian affairs, I mean, in the world, or basically wrote the book on Vladimir Putin. Fiona Hill had an interview this week with a media outlet, and she said for sure he would use nuclear weapons. For sure he would. Yes, he would. That's her opinion. And she has spent a career studying the man. Matt, also calling from White Lake. Matt.
Hi, I was just calling because I spoke to a group of people that were at my house, just a random cross-section of people, and trying to get a picture from them on what they thought of the war in Ukraine.
Okay.
And most of the people that I spoke to said they felt like it was just another far-off war.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I can't help but think that maybe that's indicative of how Canadians are feeling maybe in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like that's probably a drastic mistake on our part, because this is much different than anything we've been dealing with in the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I also had a similar impression earlier in the week, Matt. When I brought this up as a topic earlier in the week, please call in, share your thoughts on the war. It was hard to get people to call in. Usually my phone lines are jammed before I even start the talkback hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I even just trying to get people engaged in the conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And as to your callers previously saying we need to do something, we should do something, I agree. However, if you were to look at the state of our military, and I mean this in the kindest, most respectful way possible,
sure,
we are woefully unprepared to do anything that has any effect on anybody larger than the state of Idaho.
Well, again, I go back to this from Murray Brewster's reporting for CBC. He's their defense correspondent, and he used to work for the Canadian Press. This has been his beat for like the longest time. Listen to this. The Canadian Army has no air defenses to keep soldiers safe from aerial attack. Its aging jets are vulnerable to Russia's air defense system. The Navy has no supply ships that can operate in a war zone. 65% of Army equipment and vehicles are serviceable, and 60% of the air fleet is operational. That's our military right now.
Yeah, I have some friends that fly for the Canadian military, and they basically said that effectively our military is an aging fleet of taxis with regards to the Air Force.
Yeah, it's tragic. Thank you, Matt. Okay, 10:45. Be right back. Rob Snow Show Talkback Hour, Friday free for all. Anything goes. Well, okay, just about anything goes on City News.
Well, we all loved our rock T-shirts growing up, right? It was our badge. Hey, we went to this concert. We knew that band inside out. So we kept doing that and kept promoting that. What's sort of happening now is that audience is dying. I always say the earth is flat. So the 60s rockers are falling off the end of the earth. So you don't see as big a sales anymore because my audience is disappearing. What's sort of helping to promote that history is the kids are buying vinyl. And luckily we have a vinyl shop in the neighborhood here, a record center. So what's happening is I've seen kids come in with their dad And the dad saying, hey, do you have any Beatles shirts? Do you have any CBGB? Do you have any of this? I said, well, why? He said, well, because my daughter's into it. She's wearing my T-shirt. So slowly it's coming back, right? The kids are, I think, getting fed up with the generic music that's out there. And they want to click into something that, first of all, links them to their parents, something that they thoroughly enjoy now, and maybe they're passing it on to their grandkids. Pandemic has been a couple of things, definitely hard on everybody. So much messaging that's out there that people don't understand, stats every day. Jesus Murphy, like I'm getting a headache just reading this stuff, right? So really it was just trying to understand where we were going to go from there. The city of Ottawa all of a sudden said, everybody's got to wear a mask. You got to wear it on the bus. People were scrambling, okay? And I had, the store next door had really big windows, so I just flooded the window with masks. Well, that was the activity that saved the business. People were coming in buying 2, 3, 4 masks at a time at $20 a pop here. But my masks were so different. They were the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Queen, all the pop culture. Everything else out there was medical masks. And right, so people said, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to show my rock and roll. So it became the new T-shirt as far as I'm concerned. Well, what I've done, I'm Hindenburg. I'm now at 1114A Wellington Street, which is next door to the Fab Gear store. And the reason I've changed names, I've rebranded the store, is because I was planning on retiring. And in December, I'm going, oh, I'm not going to retire. But I've committed to changing what the store's about. So I came up with a new name, Fab Gear's Rock Shop, where legends are dressed, and essentially get that message out. I prefer, if the shirt don't fit, you come in, you try another one on. People like to feel the fabrics with clothing. It's amazing. You'll come in and go, oh, I love that. Oh, can I try this? So that's the big difference. I'm not out to make a gazillion dollars. I stick the way I am, old school. I take cash, we take cards. Come on in and talk to the owner.
Time to talk back.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Last chance to have at me till the weekend. Yell at me or sing my praises. Omar in Barrhaven. Omar.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
It goes, sir. Yep. What's up?
Glad to hear that. I'm calling about the Keystone Pipeline. Some commentary earlier.
Yep.
First of all, if I could respond to the American president, high gas prices isn't what's killing the middle class. It's the rise in the cost of living, which haven't been paralleled by incomes. Incomes are stagnant.
Right.
And in terms of the pipeline, I know it's important to consider costs and benefits of economic and environmental projects, but they're not even doing that. Every time they do an environmental analysis, it's rushed, and that's why the courts reject proposals brought to them, because they're not exhaustive in the consideration of the environmental damages. Overall, though, I think this is a bigger story, or this is a part of the bigger story of the subordination of the interests of Indigenous peoples since Confederation. The historical record shows that the Canadian nation has been a bad faith actor with Indigenous nations and the promises made to them. When we displace Indigenous peoples and erase their economic base that they've had since time immemorial.
Right. Yeah, but well, what does that have to do with the Keystone XL pipeline?
Well, because...
And as for the other pipeline that's been nationalized by the Canadian government, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, First Nations investors want to buy that. It's Indigenous groups that want to buy that. The Indigenous, there are at least 2, if not 3, Indigenous business organizations right now that have financing in place, and they want to buy that pipeline.
This is a new tactic employed by some Indigenous peoples, but remember, Rob, that Indigenous nations run in the hundreds, only on the West Coast.
Sure.
You know, and
but you only ever hear from people who are opposed. You never hear from the Indigenous entrepreneurs who are involved in the oil and gas industry.
It's important to get their views.
I would say it is.
But
listen to them.
Yeah, I want to just
about how they want jobs and prosperity for their people.
That's true.
That's
true.
On their land.
But look here. I think that the problem is twofold.
Okay.
That in one part, I want to avoid a climate disaster. And on the second part, which we've seen in government reports and commissions, that we can't continue to commit genocide on sovereign, independent, indigenous nations.
Is that what we're doing right now? Do you think are we committing genocide on Indigenous people right now in Canada?
Yes.
We are?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if I'm there with you on that right now. Okay. Did we? Yeah. Are we right now, today? Yeah, I disagree with that assessment. But I'll say this. As the pandemic revealed all kinds of gaping holes in Canada's public policy, shortcomings on things like healthcare capacity, long-term care, unemployment, precarious employment, we are going to see in the days and weeks ahead how this country, especially under this Liberal government, has been totally unserious about the value of Canada's natural resources. Because this government right now, with help from the New Democrats and the Greens and the Bloc, as long as it doesn't include natural resources in Quebec and the aluminum sector in Quebec and the mining sector in Quebec and iron ore in Quebec, these politicians right now are talking about bringing forth just transition legislation right now, which is basically they're going to legislate unemployment in this country in the natural resources sector. At a time when gas prices are at record highs, probably going to go higher, and at a time when the world is screaming for conflict-free energy, which we have in abundance. It's coming home to roost. You see what they did in Germany, where they have totally turned in Germany decades of public policy on its head, because this has been a giant light bulb moment that they should never have had a policy that saw that country so dependent on energy from a warmonger. Bernie in Mississauga. Bernie.
Yeah, how you doing, Rob?
Oh, Bernie.
That's good. Yes, it's a very bad times we're living in. I hate to see war being inflicted on anybody, but I think it's time now for the Ukrainians to give up their arms, become a neutral country, and say that they're not going to join NATO. And the Russians,
if they give up their arms, they'll be a conquered country, Bernie.
Well, no, they're not a conquered country. They're part of Russia. They're part of Russia.
They're not part of Russia. They're not part of Russia, you silly old commie. They are independent of that country. They declared their independence. They want to be free of the darkness of communism and tyranny, the kleptocracy of Putin's Russia. My gosh, this hour can't end soon enough. Mo in Canada. Mo.
Hello, Rob.
Please tell me you're going to make some sense, Mo.
Yes, absolutely. I have something to tell you. Is it possible that charging Putin a war crime, and instead of doing that, put a bounty on his head? So probably someone in Russia will take that. The guy's closer to him. Would that be possible?
I suppose anything is possible. Yeah.
It's really difficult thing to do it in a sense in that kind of environment.
Apparently, Putin's greatest fear, his greatest fear, and there have been documentaries about this and books written about this. His greatest fear is that he is going to end up like Gaddafi.
Oh,
that he has this fixation, this fascination with how Muammar Gaddafi died. Do you remember how Muammar Gaddafi died? They basically killed him. They dragged him out into the street and killed him, right?
Foxhole.
You know?
Yeah.
They dragged him out into the street and they killed him. And apparently Putin used to watch that video over and over and over again and said, I'm not going out like Gaddafi went out.
Yeah. I have another thing to say to you. You remember you telling us what your wife, she lived in way back when she lived in Nova Scotia. She had a Honda Civic.
She had a Honda Civic, yeah.
And she was talking about the gas being 20 cents.
Yeah, it was, we actually looked it up, how much gas was when she was living just outside of Halifax, driving a Honda Civic, had two little young kids.
Yeah.
And we looked it up, and it was 71 cents a liter at the time. 71 cents a liter. And she was thinking, how am I ever going to feed my two kids if gas is at 71 cents a liter? And now here it is, it's $1.73 a liter now.
I'm sure you had that conversation already. Did she say anything about the 173?
She's glad. She drives a little Volkswagen Beetle, so it's really good.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's really
I hope
good.
You have a wonderful time.
Yeah, you too, Mo. Thank you.
And enjoy the new puppy.
The new puppy.
And, great name, by the way. Great name.
Monty. Yes. Monty. Yes. Officially, it's Sir Sidney Montague, otherwise known as Monty. Honest to goodness, that's what we told the breeder that the dog's name was, Sir Sidney Montague. That's how ridiculous buying a dog can be sometimes. Troy, last call of the week, Troy.
Oh, look at that, Rob. Some common sense.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What's that saying, Rob? You're well read. History is deemed to repeat itself.
Yeah.
Doomed to repeat itself.
Doomed to repeat itself. Yeah.
Well, I every year, at least once a year around Remembrance Day, I love to watch World War II in color on Netflix.
Yeah, that's a good documentary. Yeah,
I love it. Right, and it starts out by showing how Hitler started. And I don't know if it's just me, but I see so many resemblances of what's going on. Right, he started out by annexing some land around Germany, and then moved out into the, and then when he finally invaded Poland, the whole world knew. The United States were isolated. They weren't helping. It's exactly, to me, it's exactly what happened before.
Okay.
And we're all knowing, we all see it, and we're all sitting here saying, well, what can I do? And, I'm a 50-year-old guy here in Orleans. I can't go fight a war anymore. But these gas prices, all this stuff in the world, they're blaming on, it's like, I'm tired of it all, Rob. I'm tired of the lies. The gas prices aren't high because of a war. Gas prices are high because greedy people are in charge, colluding together with the government, raping Canadians. That's the truth. Right. People don't want to read that. That's fine. But I'm not going to live like that.
All right.
The best of my ability.
Gotcha. Man, oh man. Pretty intense hour. Let's all go to our happy place. And we'll come back after the 11 o'clock news. Deal? Deal. This is City News.
number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, March 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, minus 10 degrees, minus 9 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Suffering in Ukraine is only projected to get worse. City News reporter Irene Preklet now joins us with the latest.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says Russia is hitting civilian targets, including apartments, schools, and hospitals. And that's not all.
The use of cluster bombs. We have seen reports of the use of other types of weapons, which will be in violation of international law.
He expects the deaths, injuries, and destruction to only worsen in the coming days. And while 1.2 million people have left Ukraine, some are heading to the war zone, including Virginia Dronova, who left Ottawa and is now in western Ukraine.
But I chose to be with Ukraine. I chose to stand with my country. And if absolutely necessary, I will be fighting. I will take arms, and I will be fighting along with my other citizens.
UNICEF says about 500,000 children are now among the refugees. Irene Preklet, City News.
City News time, 11:03. A retired lieutenant general and former Liberal MP says the West should be making specific moves now to combat the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Andrew Leslie tells the Rob Snow Show there is only one thing Russian President Putin respects, and that is force. Leslie says we have to get away from the current response.
Those who say, oh, he'll stop at the Ukraine, don't worry, let's give diplomacy a chance, or the sanctions will do it all. Those are the same folk who said he wouldn't attack a week ago.
As for the Canadian forces being prepared to join in, Leslie says hard calls will have to be made, but Canada has enough to make a meaningful contribution. A special edition of Ukrainian Profile will air tonight at 6 on Rogers TV, hosted by Derek Fage. Along with the regular hosts of that program, it will study the impact of the Russian invasion. Special guests will include scholars, representatives from the Ukrainian Embassy and Ukrainian Congress. Derek tells City News he will also be hearing from someone who right now is in Kyiv.
We actually have a resident of Kyiv who's going to join us. She is in Kyiv at the moment, so we'll get an idea of what it's like there on the ground. She's also the executive director of the National Research Foundation of Ukraine.
Now, the one-hour special will begin at 6 o'clock. It will be broadcast on Rogers Television and right here on City News. It's 11:04. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Just a lot of cloud for most areas today with a chance of some flurries. We are under a special weather statement, though. Now, not for today. This is for late Saturday night into Sunday. There could be several hours of freezing rain. Again, late Saturday night, early Sunday. For today, the high -4.
And right now it's minus 10 degrees in Ottawa, minus 9 degrees in Smiths Falls. Ontario Deputy Premier Christine Elliott will not be seeking re-election in June. We told you this morning. Richard Southern brought you that exclusive. Now Elliott herself has confirmed she is not offering for re-election for the Progressive Conservatives in the June 2nd election. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
So this week we learned that more than 1 million people have fled Ukraine now. More than 1 million people have fled Ukraine in a little more than a week. So that is another refugee crisis well underway as we welcome Michael Messenger, CEO, World Vision Canada. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob. Good to be with you.
How would you describe the scale of this crisis?
This is an emerging humanitarian disaster. I've seen lots of refugee flows in places from Syria and other places, very significant. But the size and scope and speed of this response, now it's 1.2 million people, according to the UN, is unprecedented. That's like the entire city of Ottawa since last week has fled across a border. So you can imagine the humanitarian devastation that's being left behind, and of course the stresses on those who are seeking to help refugees who are crossing the border, and countries who are seeking to still be open to welcoming them.
And the neighboring countries, what is their capacity to absorb refugees in these numbers?
Well, this is always the challenge in refugee flows like this. So far, we have been pleased by how open the borders have been, but this is a current emergency, and it's only going to get worse. The UN estimates up to 5 million may actually be on the move eventually. World Vision has been working in some of these neighboring countries, specifically Romania, Moldova, Georgia, and we're on the ground at the moment with our teams. In Romania, where I'm actually heading next week or later this week to visit our teams there, they've told us that there are hours-long queues for people to cross the border. 75,000 people have entered Romania alone at just the one border area. So this is going to be the big challenge. We have to be able to meet the immediate needs of refugee families, many of them women and children. But then also we have to be concerned about what's the long-term play. How do we accommodate them? What's that going to mean for services to be able to provide for them? Not only because it puts stress not only on the people who are coming, but also on the hosting and welcoming communities.
Sure. And I mean, if you're talking about countries, Moldova, Romania, well, so far the reports have been, they're welcoming. These are not wealthy countries to begin with, right?
Well, they've shown a remarkable generosity.
Yes,
I will tell you, talking to our staff in Romania, all of whom are Romanian, and we've been working in that country for many, many years, a local organization. They have been so overwhelmed by the generosity of Romanians, but they can't do it on their own, and that's why World Vision, is ramping up our response there, bringing in experts and staff from all over, and of course getting critically needed resources so that we can meet the needs of these kids and families who are crossing the border, often with nothing, perhaps the clothes on their back, a small suitcase. We heard stories of families who said we left the breakfast dishes on the table and ran from the conflict. As a father myself, I just can't imagine how stressful that must be if I had to scoop my kids up and run from safety into the unknown. Imagine what you must be leaving behind. So we're doing all that we can to address the immediate needs of these families, not only with physical care, but also with psychological support. And it's a big concern.
Yeah. And already, even prior to this crisis, sadly, no shortage of refugees in the world. Right? We have a terrible situation in Ethiopia. The ongoing tragedy in Afghanistan. This was already a terrible time for a refugee crisis, right? Am I right there? Or?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Not only do we have long-standing crises like the Syrian refugee crisis with millions of people fleeing that country, but we have places, as you've mentioned, internally displaced people in places like Afghanistan. We see South Sudanese refugees still coming into Uganda. I mean, I've described this, frankly, as the past 10 years has been a decade of displacement, where people have been fleeing conflict, climate issues. Now COVID has made it even worse, and they are going to seek safety. But nothing quite like the scale right now of this acute moment where the conflict has driven so many people so quickly with such need to flee across borders.
Okay. World Vision, part of its mission is that it's dedicated to the world's most vulnerable people, regardless of religion, race, ethnicity, or gender. But there is a kind of subplot or another narrative here that Western countries are being more welcoming to Ukrainian refugees than, say, refugees from other countries where the refugees are people of color, for example, or of a different religion, whatever the case may be. What do you think about that?
Well, we have heard, troubling stories of discrimination at various points. We also know that Ukraine itself had welcomed refugees from other places who were being displaced again. Our commitment, as you said, at World Vision and alongside our humanitarian coalition partners and others, is to focus on people's needs, regardless of their background. We want to do this with no strings attached. And so our commitment is to continue to say, no matter where you're from, no matter what your circumstance is, we want to be on the ground, be able to help, and ensure that everybody who is vulnerable gets the opportunity to seek at least some semblance of safety and have their needs met in the short term. Okay. No matter where people come from, they love their children, they care for them, and so we want to ensure that everybody, even those marginalized or vulnerable groups, have the chance to escape and seek the shelter and care that they need during this time.
Okay. What are the needs right now?
Well, the basic needs right now is very similar to almost every other humanitarian disaster, and that is to meet the basic needs to survive for these families who have so little. So that means things like food and water, medication, hygiene kits, which we're providing to people, refugee accommodation, considering basic services. You know, those things that what do you need to live right now? But one thing that we've also learned, Rob, is that part of our first line response is also what we call psychological first aid, particularly children who have faced, significant mental and emotional stress. They've lost loved ones, schools have closed. They've seen probably unimaginable things on the journey to the border. Not only that, but they've left their community and everything that is familiar to them behind. So as part of our response, in addition to those physical needs, we have 45 psychologists as part of our Romania response, working with children, setting up what we call child-friendly spaces to ensure that we're meeting those needs as well, to try to reduce the harm that we know children are particularly vulnerable to.
Just on that point, Michael, I'm wondering if you've come across a scenario like this before in your previous experience where the refugees are, for the most part, women and children, because the men, if they're between 18 and 60, have been told, you can't go, you can't leave, you're going to be subscripted into the armed forces. So you have all of these children without their fathers. That would seem to be an added layer of trauma to me.
It's an added layer of trauma because families are separated. The kind of support systems that we expect are there. So you're right. I mean, I've seen the challenge of family displacement and other refugee responses that I've been part of. But this is a particularly acute issue right now. And so that's just an added layer of worry and concern. And so as we think about what it means for them to get settled, what does accommodation mean, how do we work towards family reunification at some point? And unfortunately, the only way that's going to happen is when the conflict ceases, I think, or peace comes, and that's another element we want to make sure that we're calling for. And at least the prioritization of humanitarian aid and ensuring that civilians can get to places of refuge as quickly as we can. But you're absolutely right. The dynamic of family displacement, family separation, just imagine our family being ripped apart at a time when we're already dealing with such other incredible conflict. It must be so, so difficult. And that's what we're hearing from families at the border.
Okay. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Rob. We're so grateful for Canadians who are supporting, the efforts through World Vision, the Humanitarian Coalition, and we always have more need than we have resources. So we encourage your listeners to consider giving to a reputable organization like ours.
Thank you, Michael Messenger, CEO, World Vision Canada. This is The Rob Snow Show, and this is City News.
The past few years of
I always knew I was going to own my own business, and I've always wanted to have a store. And I sort of figured when the right concept came together at the right time, I would move forward with that plan. And so through doing some environmental initiatives in the restaurant group that I was with prior to opening this store, it just triggered my path towards being more environmentally conscientious and wanting to make more of a difference, and hopefully encouraging, inspiring other people to want to do the same, at which point the idea for All Eco was born. I have some really fun products. I have a really wide spectrum of products. So the things we look for in terms of qualifying products are sustainably made, upcycled, recycled, zero waste, all natural, no harmful chemicals to the environment or to our bodies. We have fun stuff, so really clean burning candles, lots of really natural body care and skin care. I put a real emphasis on Canadian products. I really try to support up-and-comers, and I always source Canada first. The refill bar is really important to me. It's really huge. I think that's been exciting as well, because I thought it was going to be a real process in convincing people that this is a better way to go. And actually it was just like right away there was a built-in affinity towards doing refill, which has been great. We closed, I think, probably we were closed down by before the second week of March. Just didn't feel we could comfortably or confidently stay open, even though I do sell essential products, like in terms of the cleaning. But we just didn't feel we could make a safe space for ourselves or our customers at that time, and especially with the information we had at the time. So we did close our doors, at which point I did not have a website, because that was I hadn't even scheduled myself to have a website at that point. So that was sort of like full speed moving towards that and trying to drive the business at the same time, still get myself on the map because I was so new. So during that time, as we were building the website, we were still doing a lot of video shopping and private shopping, online shopping, like online phone, text. Any way I could do business, I was doing it. And there was really a nice show of support for my business during that time, which was really, really encouraging. And now,
Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
In sports, Steve Warren is back. Sens Nation podcast, sensnationhockey.com. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
You are such a welcome diversion, Steve.
I'm glad I can.
So much doom and gloom out there, man. Holy cow. But, if you're looking to be cheered up by the Sens, no luck last night. They were shut out. What'd you think of the game?
Well, it was a case of, as was the case with Tampa, the game prior to that one, it was just a case of the Sens being badly outclassed.
Yeah.
I think in the big picture, it's good for the players and the organization to get a real good sense of, where their game's going to need to be to start having their years of unparalleled success, as they've been called.
Yeah.
And I think basically, if you go back to December, the Sens beat Tampa 4-0, and they beat Florida 8-2. And they get that same matchup again, and these teams were ready for them. They pushed back, and you see the talent they have. So much chasing in both of those games. I think they both would have been way worse, too, if not for the goaltending.
Yeah, we're into March now, so teams are starting to tune up now.
Right.
The top teams. And, when I think about the Senators and how their year is gone and their terrible start, and they got really slammed by injuries. They had a bad start. They got slammed by COVID, and then some of their best players were out for a considerable period of time, and Drake Batherson is still not back. So, they haven't had very good luck this season either. Steve, is what it comes down to, I think, too.
Yeah, I'm sure rival teams will look at it and you start talking in these terms. Oh, you're making excuses.
Yeah, I am.
Well,
yeah.
at some point, but at some point, excuses. You have to say those are also legitimate reasons. You can't dismiss the fact that they've been without key guys, and every calamity that could hit a hockey club seems to have. In this past week, had 8 or 9 guys come down with the flu as they get ready for these types of teams. You mentioned Batherson. Josh Norris just got back in the lineup.
Yep.
Shabbat was out with illness. Shane Pinto. These are not small things. Connor Brown had a broken jaw for a while and missed a bunch of games. And so, across the board, it's just been a weird season that's been really start and stop due to COVID. So this is going to get a whole lot better next season, I think.
Yeah. So the can't-miss matchup of the National Hockey League tomorrow afternoon is the Ottawa Senators and the Arizona Coyotes. Oh, yeah. Set your PVRs, everyone, for that one. Yeah, there's so much on the line. But nevertheless, give us some of the subplots there, Steve, for that one.
Well, there's not a whole lot to tell you about that one. Certainly Arizona is the worst team in the NHL. even the Montreal Canadiens have gone on a nice little heater here, so they've pulled themselves out. But Arizona is just generally speaking a bad team that's in the midst of a rebuild, and I mean, really, I don't know what they're rebuilding exactly. They're just trying to get good because I mean, they've been in a horror show for the better part of 20 years. I think they've only won a couple of playoff series their entire time in Arizona since leaving Winnipeg. So, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly going to be, a Stanley Cup preview or anything like that. But I think, generally speaking, the Sens, that's a game that they're going to want, especially after the last couple of games where they really got spanked.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'll be probably watching a lot of Calgary hockey come playoff time. I mean, that's a fun team to watch, Calgary Flames. I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
I think I might have to convert into a kind of a get on the Flames bandwagon for the playoffs by the looks of things. Steve.
So you're one of those fans that basically looks for the best Canadian team?
Yeah, I'm one of those. Yeah, as long as it's not the Leafs.
Certainly, Daryl said it.
Yeah, you and I are cut from the same cloth on that one, Steve. A lot would have to happen before we'd cheer for the Leafs, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in your, in the news side of things, when the playoffs come around, they try and come at hockey fans with that.
Yeah.
With that whole thing about, well, it's been since 1993 since a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup, so surely you're going to cheer for a team like the Leafs. No. I don't think you know how the hockey fans' mind works.
Yeah. Not this hockey fan, anyway. No way. And you can blame it all on Gary Roberts. He's what did it to me. Anyway. The Russia-Ukraine angle, there's a lot of talk about, should Russian hockey players pay a price for this? If so, what kind of price? Could it impact hockey? Could it impact things like the draft, for example? What are you hearing about how this could impact hockey?
Well, I mean, it certainly could. I mean, and some of it would not seem fair.
Right.
Wouldn't see it. For example, like all the Russian players playing in the NHL. We know they have very little to do with what's going on over there.
Right.
But at the same time, people are dying, and if sanctions and these guys, being asked to step aside, if that in some small way helps the overall cause, then don't you have to kind of look at that? I mean, you've seen sanctions that have occurred already. Russia has lost the 2023 World Junior hosting rights. The CHL, which the 67s are a part, they've banned the Russian part of they basically banned Russians from the import draft.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the NHL suspended all business partnerships. So, I mean, you're seeing it across the board. You even have North American players who are canceling their KHL contracts, right? Because guys like former Senators Shane Prince, Nick Shore, not just because they object to the war for ethical reasons, but because the rubles that they're paid in, as you know, aren't worth a whole lot at this moment in time.
Right. Isn't that interesting? Okay. All right. Gosh, I'm such a fair weather baseball fan as it is. If the Jays aren't doing much, I don't pay much attention to Major League Baseball. And you think of all the hardship in the world right now for baseball players to be going on strike again. Like, oh my gosh, is there... Oh my gosh, are there a bigger class of tone-deaf people in the world than Major League Baseball players right now? Honest to God, that's how I feel about this labor strife with Major League Baseball. But what are they arguing about now?
Well, I agree with you. It's the most unrelatable thing I've ever heard. You got Mike Trout, who has a 12-year contract worth $430 million.
Right, yeah.
There was a point in baseball's time, Rob, where, baseball players, they were being held down by the owners. They were not treated fairly, but I think that pendulum has swung nicely the other way for the players. Right now you get two sides with giant slices of the pie, and they're arguing over crumbs right now. It's, like I say, so unrelatable. And, I mean, I could get into the real gory details of things, but, I mean...
Like, I heard that one of the arguments is about the base salary and the separation between the owners and the union is like $25,000. Like, they're arguing about whether the base salary should be $700,000 or $725,000. That's a base salary.
Yeah, you're doing all right there. And I think the biggest thing is the overall payroll. The owners want to basically fix the disparity, because right now you have, as of last year, the former Cleveland Indians, who are going to be the Guardians, they spent $42 million on payroll, and the Dodgers, on the other hand, spent $266 million. Right. So the owners would like to fix that.
Yeah.
And the players, they want to have more control over the terms of their contract. One of the things they're really tired about is young players being kept intentionally in the minors, delaying them from when they can become a free agent later on, even though they're clearly ready for the major leagues. So but it's all stuff that's so unrelatable to the average fan.
Yeah.
This is a time, Rob, where baseball is already losing fans.
Yeah.
They lost fans because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
They lost fans because, well, people have so many other things to do with their entertainment.
It's boring. It's boring.
Baseball's slow. Yeah, baseball's slow.
Yeah.
It was totally delusional to miss a single game at this point in time.
All right. Thank you, Steve Warren. We'll
Thank you,
speak
Rob.
soon. Yep. Bye-bye. Steve Warren, veteran Ottawa sports broadcaster, host of the Sens Nation podcast, sensnationhockey.com. Coming up, Queen's Park Weekend Review. Lots of pocketbook issues dominating the agenda at the Ontario Legislature this week. We'll talk about a lot of them coming up next with our MPPs. This is the Rob Snow Show on the City News.
And the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, March 4th. Good morning, I'm Danielle Bain. Right now in Ottawa, it's -8, some light snow coming down, and in Smiths Falls, it's -7. Here's what's making news this hour. UN and Ukrainian officials say no radiation was released from a Russian attack at Europe's biggest nuclear power plant in Ukraine, where firefighters extinguished a blaze at the facility. Russian forces are still pressing their campaign to cripple the country despite global condemnation. The International Atomic Energy Agency's Director General said Friday the building hit by a Russian projectile at the plant was not part of the reactor, but instead a training center at the plant. Rogers TV will be airing a special edition of Ukrainian Profile tonight. Daytime host Derek Fage will join the regular hosts with a variety of guests, from scholars to representatives from the Ukrainian embassy and the community in Ottawa. He tells the Rob Snow Show this morning that it's important to give the people of Ottawa a look at the impact of the Russian aggression. The 1-hour special begins at 6 on Rogers TV. You can watch it on Cable 22 on Rogers here in Ottawa or listen to it here on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM. And in sports, the Canadian Men's Curling Championship kicks off tonight in Lethbridge, Alberta. Team Canada's Brendan Botcher will begin his Brier title defense in a showdown with Ontario's Glenn Howard. 4-time Brier champion Kevin Cooey is also in action. His Alberta rank is set to face Saskatchewan's Colton Flash. City News Time, 11:31. I'm Danielle Bain, and for news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, let's get to it here. Queen's Park Week in Review. MPPs, including a new voice on the Queen's Park Week in Review. Lucille Collard, Ottawa Vanier, Liberal MPP. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, nice to hear from you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. My first time.
Your first time. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. You say that now. You say
Why, should I be afraid of somebody?
Well, John keeps coming back. John Fraser keeps coming back. So hopefully you'll come back too. So, Gilles Bisson is here. New Democrat, Timmins. Gilles?
Bonjour. Comment ça va?
And Donna Skelly is here as well. Progressive Conservative. Flamborough, Glanbrook.
Bonjour.
Flam. Glam. Okay. Are we going to do this in French? Is that what we're going to do?
Okay. We are a bilingual nation.
Okay. I want to know, we're paying in Ottawa about $1.73 for gas. $1.73 a liter for gas. I know Gilles' number will be higher than that. So, Donna, do you know the price of gas, Donna?
Unfortunately, we are higher, $1.75.
$1.75. Okay. Gilles, what are you paying up there?
It was $1.86 yesterday. But we haven't
my
today.
gosh, $1.86.
So it's probably gone up another 10 cents. It goes up 10 cents a day. We're normally 30-cent difference, 20 to 30 cents between you and us.
$1.86. My gosh, you may as well live in Vancouver with prices.
Pretty much you can.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, Donna, Doug Ford said he was going to cut the price of gas.
And he did.
I'm paying more for gas than I've ever paid in my life.
It would be 4.3 cents a liter higher.
Did Doug Ford break his promise on gas prices?
He didn't, but we can only do so much. We did lower it 4.3 cents a liter when we scrapped the cap and trade, and of course we fought the carbon tax, and we're going to see, and I'm hoping the feds work with us because people simply cannot afford these gas prices. But currently, every liter of gas is 9 cents more expensive because of the carbon tax, and it's going up higher on April 1st. Hopefully the feds will come to their senses and at least delay, if not eliminate, that April 1st hike. Look, I think that unfortunately the NDP, the NDP has a member right now, and he's in your city, Ottawa Centre, who was calling for Joel Harden, the highest carbon tax in the world.
He's the king of the carbon tax. He's the king of the carbon tax. He's the king of the carbon tax.
You're going back to the last election. You guys have no defense now.
I think what you're doing is you're seeing what both the Liberals and the NDP have always wanted, and that is to make life miserable for drivers, forcing them to get out of their vehicle. And this is one of the issues that they wanted. They wanted higher gas prices.
Well,
now
Doug
go talk to your constituents.
I've never paid more in gas than I have under Premier Doug Ford, and that's the God's honest truth. But Gilles, your party wants to regulate the price of gas.
Yeah, listen, 2 or 3 things.
So how would that work? How would that work then?
Very simply. So first of all, you cannot change the world price of gas. It's a commodity. It's part of a world market. So let's all accept, without getting into an argument, that what happened in the Ukraine is going to affect the price of gas. That's not the issue.
Sure.
The issue is that the gas companies say, oh, wow, we can increase the price of gas more than it's actually cost us to produce it and put it in your tank, and we can charge 20, 30 cents a difference, liter difference between one region of the province or the other, only because we can. So what we're proposing is very simple. You take the rack price on Monday morning in Ottawa, not in Ottawa, New York, when it comes to how much the barrel is. You factor in to make sure that everybody gets a fair rate of return on their investment to transform it from the barrel to get it to your gas into your gas tank, and then set a floor price. If a retailer wants to compete and lower the price, they're free to do so because it's a floor price. But what it does, it makes the system transparent so that we don't end up with two things. One is Wednesday when the gas company decides that they're going to raise the price of gas only because they can, and the price differentials that we see 20, 30 cents a liter difference from one part of the province to the other. So it's providing transparency and fairness to drivers and making sure that we don't get gouged at the pump.
Okay. Lucie Collard, what can be done about these sky-high gas prices? What's the Liberal position on this?
Yeah, well, personally, I don't think regulating is the solution. We could see Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec, they are regulating price gas. They're paying the same as we do. So the solution is probably not there.
Okay.
And personally, I had to look up the price of gas in my area because I drive an electric car. And so I've been making huge amount of savings over the last couple of years, and especially, these past days.
Well, it's great if you can afford an electric car.
That's where we need to invest. That's where we need to invest, right?
Yeah.
Make it affordable for family to have an electric car, contribute to lowering, gas emissions, and kill two birds with one stone.
Well, electric cars, but we're not everywhere. We're not, and not everybody can afford an electric car. You have lots of people. You have lots of people in Vanier who can't afford electric cars.
But you can make it affordable if the government contributes to it.
Oh, in other words, let's have, again...
Oh, you want the government to cut checks to people so they can buy a car.
Subsidies. No, why not just make life affordable? And that's what we have been doing. And I just wanted to challenge the NDP's policy of wanting to regulating gas prices. The Ontario Energy Board has said it just doesn't work, and it does not result in lower gas prices. And I think that they have probably a little bit more insight than the NDP when it comes to regulating gas prices. But going back to electric vehicles, we are doing what we can. We're working with companies. Companies want to set up shop in Ontario. We do believe that there is a future in electric vehicles, but we're not there yet. And we are not. I don't believe that the solution is to subsidize that industry in the sense of giving people.
Well, you want to subsidize?
I don't think it's the government's business. It's not the government's business, Gilles and Lucille, to be sending money to people so they can buy any kind of car.
Listen,
whether it's a Tesla or a Prius or an F-150, it's not the government's business to help you buy your car. Come on.
Listen,
the government's business is to make life affordable, and they're not doing that right now.
Listen, the government of Canada... finish.
We were criticized for the license plate stickers. It was a this, it was a that. Well, that's making life affordable. We're doing what we can, but
everybody in the House voted in favor. What's your point?
Okay. Let me ask you this.
So let me just...
Okay, go ahead, Jill.
The government of Canada essentially paid to put two railways across Canada by government money. Why? Because there was no money for the private sector to do it. So there is a role for government when it comes to trying to spur certain industries. And there's nothing wrong with government saying, listen, we're going to give you some kind of ability to be able to move towards electric cars. That's just a way of being able to
making Ontario an attractive place to invest. No, but I'm talking about for the industry, to retool automotive plants, to encourage investment in rare earth minerals or whatever the case might be, things like that.
We do it all the time.
But to send people, households money, here, go buy a car.
We do it all the time. We give all kinds of listen. We give all kinds of industry subsidies and tax breaks in order to be able to build up whatever it is trying to build up.
Yes, we do.
It's a tool that we've always used. We do it in mining.
Yeah.
We do it in agriculture.
Sure.
We do it in forestry.
To attract investment. To attract investment.
That's right. So
to attract investment.
Why would you want to help create a market to have people move to cars that are electric?
Why not just give them money for a down payment for a home? Why a car? Like, where do you,
or a widescreen TV,
active transportation,
or an energy efficient refrigerator, or a new dishwasher. I mean, where does it end? Come on. All right,
gas price regulation, and both the Liberals and Tories don't agree with the mode of regulation. That's fine. But we regulate a case of beer. I can buy a case of beer in Cornwall for the same price as
we regulate electricity prices. Right?
We regulate electricity. We regulate natural gas.
We regulate the price of eggs. All right.
So at the time of this Ukrainian crisis, why wouldn't we do this, even on a temporary basis, in order to help the driver at the pump? Nobody can afford to drive these prices. You've got Uber drivers that are saying they're parking their cars because they can't afford to drive.
How many $10 Uber trips do you have to take to cover a tank of gas? Look, I want to get to one other thing on this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I interviewed Patrick Brown this week, the mayor of Brampton. I think he has his own political ambitions because there's a conservative leadership race about to begin. But he says the federal government should delay this April increase of the carbon tax. Mm-hmm. Lucille, what do you think about that idea? It's supposed to go up again, the carbon tax, in April.
I don't think delaying carbon pricing measures is a way to address this problem.
Okay.
We talk a lot about the cost of climate action, but in the long run, really, that's what saves us a lot of money compared to climate inaction. And so I think that's where we need to look.
Right. Okay. Gilles, what do you think, Gilles?
Well, listen, you can lower the carbon tax by 10 cents a liter. What do you think the gas companies are going to do? They're going to move in and take up the room. So you give, you say, okay, we're going to lower it by 10 cents, and the gas companies are going to come in and say, woo, look at all the money we can make, another 10 cents. Yeah. Why would we do that? That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Okay. Not a lot of takers here on that one, Donna, but nevertheless.
I think he's right, and I think, Lucille, what you just said is terrifying. It goes back to this. What we're seeing today is exactly what the Liberals and the NDP want people to be forced to deal with so that they park their cars. The reality is...
we don't want to park cars. Come on, I drive an F-150.
All right, one at a time. I want to get into something else.
You want higher prices. You want to make it...
No, we don't.
You want to make it as difficult as possible for people to drive, so they park their car and look.
People have to drive in a whole bunch of places. We don't have transit in a whole bunch of communities across Ontario.
Exactly.
All right.
And that's right.
So that's why we drive cars. And when price of gas is too high, it just gets us. So don't say the NDP wants to stop people from driving cars, because we don't.
Are you quite finished now? Okay.
Yes. I'm okay now.
My gosh, Gilles, the constant interrupting here.
But if they're going to start saying that we...
Okay. Are you having fun, Lucille? Are you glad you joined the show today? Okay.
Not sure. I thought this was going to be a respectful conversation, and we were going to talk, not just, be like in the kindergarten. I feel like I'm in the House of Commons right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Look, when we let's stop here. Everybody catch your breath. When we come back, Financial Accountability Officer report says the province of Ontario, government of Ontario, spent 4.4% less than planned. That's $5.5 billion. Why? When we come back, Rob Snow Show, City News.
Papa Jack was started 14 years ago, really by accident more than anything. A friend of mine had bought a grocery store. A popcorn machine was in there. He didn't want it. I ended up by buying it. My family thought I was nuts. When I first said, come and pick up this popcorn machine, my son said, what the heck for? I won't use the exact words. But anyway, we started, and it just kept on growing and growing. But at the time, I was the only one selling popcorn in Ottawa. But we persevered. as a family, and here we are. So it's been very, very rewarding for my family and myself, and to see our brand name Papa Jack. And Papa Jack came out of, I wanted something that was going to be very bilingual. So Papa, and then in Ontario everybody called me Jack, even though my name is Jacques. In Quebec it's fine, it's Jacques, but in Ontario it was always Jack. So we married the two together, Papa, Jack. With the store that we have on Thurston Drive, it basically, the factory's in the back. If you come into the store, you can see how the popcorn is being made during the week. So it adds an extra layer of, you can see the sanitation, you can see how we do it. It's not like making popcorn. Most people thought when I started this, I was making popcorn in my garage or in my basement. No, never did. It was started in this building, in the back of the building, and then we kept growing and growing until what we have now. My daughter and my son came up with a brilliant idea to do a fundraiser online. So basically all people have to do is to register here, and we give them a special code number. And with that code number, they tell their friends or their neighbors, everybody, to buy online from us with that code number. And then at the end of each period, could be 2 weeks, could be a month, then we'll pay them a 20% of all the businesses that we got through that code number. One thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the Ottawa people who have supported us and support local businesses. It sometimes people, you know, they talk about buying locally. Now it becomes that much more important to buy locally, to support your local businesses, because not too many of them are going to survive this. We're fortunate that we're so far so good.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, let's get right back into it here. With Lucille Collard is the Ottawa Vanier Liberal MP. Gilles Bisson is the New Democrat from Timmins. Donna Skelly is the Progressive Conservative. Flamborough-Glanbrook Financial Accountability Office reports that the provincial government spent $119.9 billion over the first 3 quarters of the 21-22 fiscal year, but that was $5.5 billion less than planned. Most sectors spent less than planned, including, and this is right from the report, $1.3 billion for health, less. Children and social services, $1.2 billion. Interest on the debt, because interest rates went down, for $438 million. That's actually good. Post-secondary education, $391 million. And education, $212 million. What gives, Donna?
The money has been allocated, and the problem is it isn't reflected until the year end. Once we see the real figure, which will be disclosed in public accounts at the end of the year in its totality, you will see that this money has been spent. We spent $16.7 billion more last year than the year before. That is the largest single annual increase ever. And I mean, I can go right through the list and show you where we have spent the $1.3 billion, for example, in additional funds for hospitals, $300 million in rebate programs in tax and energy for businesses, $300 million in grants for small businesses, $170 million for long-term care homes. This is an increase, and I can go on and on and on. But those numbers aren't reflected until the end of the year. It has been spent. The figure that the FAO is talking about is just a snapshot in time. But for example, if that particular expense didn't make it until the next quarter, it wouldn't be reflected in that particular time. But all of that money has been spent.
Okay.
And you'll see it at the end of the year.
All right. Gilles, what's your reaction to this FAO report?
The FAO, the Financial Accountability Officer, made his report. I think that the FAO would not be doing this unless he thought there was an issue. So clearly the government has received money from the federal government and has not transferred them to some programs. And all you need to do is talk to people at the hospital sector, education sector, and parents with autistic kids, and you'll see where the money didn't go. And I think the government is, at the end, will be judged by that when it comes to the next election.
Lucille Collard, what do you think
I think
about this
that
FAO report?
Yeah, I think if all that investment that had been allocated and was there, we would see it on the ground. Like, we don't certainly see it in the classrooms of our kids, which is still overcrowded, with, schools that, need desperate repairs. We don't see it in our healthcare system. I certainly don't see it in the streets in Ottawa, Vanier, with so many people still on the street not being able to house themselves. So, everybody needs to be concerned that money is being unspent when, people are suffering and have been in dire situation, having a hard time buying groceries and cars and paying rent. So, where's that money?
Okay. There are a couple of more things I have to get into here. We have the latest real estate figures out. Toronto Real Estate Board, GTA. Housing prices up 28% compared to last year. A detached home in Toronto now close to $2 million. Like, holy cow, $2 million. My gosh, you may as well live in Manhattan. Here in Ottawa, $837,000 for a house in Ottawa, up 17%. Now, the provincial government, the Ford government, had a housing task force report. The City of Ottawa's planning department here is going to challenge some of the suggestions of that report because it's worried that the municipality is going to lose a lot of local planning control. And one thing it's really worried about is this, quote, ability to preserve a neighborhood's character. For example, Lucille, Ottawa Vanier, Montreal Road has a lot of character, right? No, seriously. We want the ability of neighborhoods to preserve their character. What do you think about that particular part of this report, Lucille?
Yeah, I think it needs to be a balanced approach, right?
Okay.
I think that the task force by the government is proposing good market measures. I don't see the government, though, implementing that. And I actually conducted my own housing and homelessness task force over the last couple of years, consulting many people from the sector, from the housing sector, but, also just people needing housing. And I think that we need a plan. We need an affordable housing plan by the minister, and we need this plan to be made public. And we need to allow the municipalities to also make their plan and, make an affordable housing plan and give them control over the zoning.
All right. Okay. Donna?
Well, I spent, as I mentioned before,
what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about $1 million for a house, $2 million for a house?
I know,
it's crazy.
It's $1 million in Hamilton. I was with the minister yesterday, actually, in Hamilton at a meeting with home builders. And being a former city councilor, I can tell you one of the reasons why we have an issue is the inability of municipalities to expedite building permits. Time is money, and that extra cost is always going to be passed on to the consumer. So we have to work with municipalities, and we've given them hundreds of millions of dollars to update their planning departments and work with bureaucrats to learn how to move files quicker. We need 1.5 million more homes to address our population growth over the next 10 years. Part of the problem is municipalities don't want to have any form of urban boundary expansion. They're also resisting intensification, but those homes have to go somewhere. With the lack of supply, you'll see increased prices. Yeah. We have to build more homes. We have to build them faster, and we have to work with municipalities to recognize.
Superintendent of Financial Institutions told the Senate Banking Committee this week here in Ottawa, we need 40,000 homes a year, every year. 40,000 new homes a year. That's how all across the country. Sheila, what would a decent house cost you in Timmins these days? Do you figure?
Oh, a lot less. You can buy a decent house for $300,000.
$300,000.
I live on a lake. It's probably $400,000 to $500,000.
Right.
It's,
okay.
It's a different housing market, and that's the part here.
But that's still probably way up, though, right?
Well, it's up to what it used to be. That the house that I have in Timmins.
But what do you think about?
Look,
I think Donna just said it. The provincial government is tired of the red tape, the hoops, the bureaucracy at the municipal level. That is making it very, very difficult for development to go ahead and build like 40,000 homes a year, for example.
Well, I'm going to agree that something needs to be done in order to be able to make sure somebody who wants to build a house is able to build a house, but you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
Saying red tape is going to clear all of the problems and it's going to lower the price from $2 million in Toronto down to $500,000, that ain't going to happen. So I think it's a combination of things. I think, yes, you need to find ways of being able to change municipal rules in such a way that allows you to build as efficiently as you can, but it's not going to drop it from $2 million to $500,000. One of the other things that we really need to do is we need to take a look at the rental market. We haven't built rentals in this province in a number of years because there's no money for developers to build rental units.
Well, yeah,
they build condos.
Yeah,
so we need to
rent
figure
control.
out.
That's big. That's
no. Where I was
legacy
going
of rent control.
Well, where I was going is we need to get back into not-for-profit housing. We used to build in this province a lot of not-for-profit housing that was geared to income, that allowed people to be able to have a place to live with dignity for a fair price. And those who had more money then were able to free up those houses to be able to get them at a lower prices to be able to buy. And rent control, yes, it has its place.
All right, we got to go. Thank you to everybody. Speak soon. Bye-bye. Yeah, everybody. Yep. Lucille Collard, Ottawa Vanier Liberal. Gilles Bisson from Timmins, New Democrat. Donna Skelly from the Hamilton area. Flamborough, Glanbrook. Rob Snow back on Monday right after the 9 o'clock news. Sam LaPrade right after the noon news. This is City News.
The Rob Snow Show.
Weekdays 9 to noon on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley.
This program is brought to you by